Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final video for Harry Potter and the Sorcerers Stone, chapters 11 through 17. After this, we plan on covering the first movie.
That'll be a fun comparison.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see just the differences and changes made from book to film. And yeah, you may be asking, well, why are we talking about Harry Potter? Captain America's about to come out. And that is because we will be talking about that too. So do not worry if you think we're just some Harry Potter only channel. No, we plan on covering many things.
Lovely.
But let us focus on the topic of today, which is, again, chapters 11 through 17.
It's your favorite part, Josh. It's Quidditch time.
Yes, it is my favorite. Just a really great chapter when it just comes to the action and stuff. But then I guess it's not your typical Quidditch match, since it includes a cursed broom and almost dying. So I would say the third book actually has the best Quidditch matches when it comes to just standard events.
Yeah.
Like there aren't any crazy things going on in the match.
Except Dementors.
Ah, dang, you're right. Never mind. Okay, I guess the final match is the one that has the least un-Quidditch stuff in it.
Hot take here, I think the World Cup one's probably the best and most normal, if that's the metric we're going by. That's so much fun hearing that.
I guess I should actually, I should specify that the Quidditch World Cup one is like the best, but the third book has the best Hogwarts Quidditch.
Yeah, I could go for that.
But I definitely
It is kind
agree.
of fun when Harry punches Malfoy in the face while holding the snitch. Is that the fifth one?
Oh yeah, he doesn't punch him. I believe he punches him in the gut.
Oh, yes, it's Hermione who punches people in the face.
Yeah, she
Okay.
gives him a big old smack. That's the third book though. But yeah. So Rachel, how does the chapter start? Anything interesting?
We discover that Snape has been injured between Halloween and this Quidditch game because he's limping around, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione figure that must mean he tried to enter the trap door. At least that's the thought they have.
Yeah, with a place like Hogwarts, I don't think you could possibly get injured in any other way.
Actually, they overhear Snape and
Mm.
they overhear Snape and Filch talking about it, so they know for a fact that Snape was attacked by the three-headed dog. So good on.
Well, I guess
Fluffy.
at first they notice him limping around.
Yeah.
And then later, after he confiscates Harry's book and he tries to get it back, that's when he sees Filch and him in the teacher's room and trying to bandage it up. You wonder why he doesn't just get Madame Pomfrey. Like, I feel like as a professor, he could easily just be like, oh yes, as part of the guard, I was making sure things were fine, but obviously having a giant three-headed dog is, a bit of a hazard, so it bit me when I was checking the traps or the obstacles, you could say.
Alas. At least Harry gets to figure things out this way.
Yeah, but it is very necessary for, I guess, plot reasons.
Okay, but let's get into Quidditch and how
The action is
much
just really
fun it is.
well explained here. It really gives you the feeling and vision that Harry has.
Mm-hmm. And I think Lee Jordan is an excellent commentator.
Agreed, very excellent. Jim Dale does a very excellent job voicing him as well.
Oh, it's hilarious. The McGonagall just trying to steal the
Jordan.
microphone.
Oh yeah, they have that running joke with all of whenever Jordan is the one with the microphone, because he's not there in the sixth one, right?
No.
What
Well,
an excellent
yeah.
chaser that girl is, and rather attractive too. Jordan! Sorry, Professor.
Remember, he's only 13 at this point.
Oh gosh.
Because remember, he's same year as Fred and George.
Oh my
Yeah, boy.
goodness, they were so young.
But yeah, so that's always a running joke with Jordan is he'll say things and McGonagall will keep questioning her decision to let him be the commentator. But obviously, he's so good that with his with the liberties he's take, it's not worth trying to replace him because he's just too good at the job.
Yeah.
Or at one point McGonagall just gets pissed off as him and doesn't bother stopping him. Oh, that's later book stuff. But
Oh yeah. Although in this chapter we also get an interesting point of view shift where it's not just from Harry, it goes to
Ron and Hermione.
Yep.
Yeah, you definitely don't get those in later books. Even the first one, I think, probably has the most sort of perspective shifts like that. Might be the only one, except for the Voldemort sort of flashes. The Voldemort fear flashes.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, you might. Let's see. Well, we never get from. Yeah, is it Quidditch matches that we get a different view than Harry? Because every other time is always from Harry's point of view?
Seems about right. Guess we'll point them out if we find them in the future.
Because in the Hufflepuff Quidditch match later in the book, it's more or less Ron. Ron gets a bit of time as well.
Ron and Neville.
Well, Neville no, I mean, that's in this one, right? Because it's, Neville seems to be a bit
Well, this is Gryffindor versus Slytherin, and then...
Well, I guess Neville's here first.
Yeah, so no, this is the first Quidditch match is when...
Is its very own chapter, and then the second one is in a different chapter, and it's versus Hufflepuff.
Yes, but so here we are, and Harry is trying to find the snitch, obviously, and then his broom starts to act out of control and tries to throw him off. And that's when we get Hermione and Ron trying to figure out what could possibly be it. And they notice...
Well, Hermione notices because she grabs Hagrid's...
Binoculars.
Hagrid's?
The binoculars?
His binoculars. Hagrid. Yes, that. And instead of looking at Harry, she scans the crowd, and because she's looking for...
Well, she's looking for Snape, I think. Because she's...
Is she looking specifically for Snape, or do you think she was just looking for someone who would be staring and muttering?
No, she started looking frantically at the crowd. What are you doing? I knew it! Snape, look! So
You're right, maybe so...
I mean, I guess she was suspicious. Just be going around, but I think that she would have to be guessing that Snape would do it.
It's just interesting is that at this time... she was still a bit like, oh, he's a professor. He can't actually be that evil.
Mm-hmm. Until he confiscates a library book for no good reason.
Confiscates a library book and appears to be trying to kill Harry. Boom. She thinks he's the most evil man.
Wouldn't it have been because Harry told Hermione that he saw Snape having been bitten by the dog?
Mm-hmm. That would have been another piece of evidence against him. So... yeah, I guess it makes sense that she would prioritize looking for him. But yeah, it's just lucky that, even though it turns out not to be him, that the person responsible, well, we'll straight up say it, it's Quirrell. This book is that, or we've been spoiling it this whole time.
That is true.
We spoiled the end, probably.
We spoiled Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, parts 1 and 2.
Oh yeah, that too. Anyway, right, but yeah, it's just Quirrell and Snape are sitting close enough that in her attempt to get to Snape, she accidentally bumps into him.
Well, she arsons a professor.
Well, she sets his robes on fire.
Thank goodness that all she did was fire that doesn't burn you. It's just like visual fire.
No, it is real fire though, because you can scoop it in a jar and it provides heat and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I guess it was a magical flame that you can, like, move into containers, which is interesting.
Just knowing Hermione, it's like, luckily it wasn't like some unforgivable curse or some kind of crazy...
I read this spell in the library. Avada Kedavra.
Oh no!
Crucio!
If you read it in the library, you would have read definition.
Well, it's just...
Abracadabra,
would it be funny if it was like a Half-Blood Prince thing, where it was like written into the corner of a book? She was like, for enemies. Snape is my enemy, Crucio! I was like, where did you learn that? It was in the corner of this magical history book.
This spell turns your enemies into bubblegum. Ah!
That would be terrifying.
Uh-huh.
It's like transferring someone into an explosive barrel and chucking them at their friend.
Yeah, I still don't understand that at all.
Gameplay.
No, I know. It's like...
That's strange. The only explanation is gameplay. There's, like, no... Yep. Story-wise, it cannot make sense.
Yeah, well, as soon as Hermione does distract Snape and Quirrell, incidentally, Harry gets the snitch. Well,
like, obviously, the spell stopped being affecting Harry, he's able to get back on his broom. And then very soon afterwards, he chases down the snitch and, accidentally catches it in his mouth.
Yep. He nearly swallowed it.
Is that your voice for the Quidditch captain?
Yeah, Flint? The one that was part troll or something.
No, is Flint the part troll?
Well, they make fun of him, you know. They say he looks like he had some troll blood in him.
That must be unfortunate, because... don't trolls smell bad genetically?
No, just imagine.
Are we profiling trolls?
No, I just see
I take it back. I take it back.
No, I just see a scene in the fourth one with Hagrid and Madame Maxine, but with him and some lady who's also half troll, and they're doing their this exact same conversation, but more awkward.
Okay, I guess that's an idea. Anyway, but
we learn the three-headed dog's name in this chapter. Fluffy.
Oh yeah, because after so he catches the snitch, and then the story transfers over to Hagrid's hut, where they're trying to convince him that it was Snape because they saw him muttering, and he was keeping eye contact with. Well, not with Harry, but
he was staring.
He was staring really hard. So yeah, you just call it staring.
I'm staring as hard as I can.
He made eye contact with the broom. The broom shuddered in fear. Even the Nimbus can be startled by Snape's greasy hair stare.
Greasy hair stare?
I was trying to be fancy, okay?
It's just so crazy how short the chapters are and how quick the book is. It rockets through the whole sort of story.
It's dense. We're halfway through the book, and that's when we find out about Nicholas Flamel.
Ah, but that was on the train. It was hidden in the shadows.
Yeah, so I guess we learn about him first.
Yeah, because so basically they're talking to Hagrid about Fluffy, and then they keep pressing for questions, and Hagrid in an outburst says that the matter is between Professor Dumbledore and his friend Nicholas Flamel.
Yes.
And they're like, ooh!
Nicholas Flamel! And Hagrid's like,
Not to be mixed up with Nicholas Flannel.
Nope.
Oh, yes, the Canadian who invented the popular thread.
Yep.
In trying to discover the Sorcerer's Stone, he merely created syrup.
Which, in its own right, is very impressive.
Oh.
Anyway, but yeah, that puts us over to chapter 12, The Mirror of Erised.
The Mirror of Desire
time.
Backwards.
Yep. I think that's fine.
It's fun.
Well, the backwards thing of, what does it say?
Desire.
Yeah, Erised is just desire backwards.
Yep, but that's all right.
I never noticed it, which is quite surprising. I guess that isn't something I realized until I think it was you who told me that it was desire backwards. So that actually would have been a bit of trivia that I would have not actually been able to answer. Because again, I just never really thought about it.
Most of us don't go around looking for words that are spelled backwards.
Well, I mean, for all of us, we listen to it a lot more, but when you look at the little phrase it says, on 207, it says, it's the thing that's oh, that's probably Latin or Greek or something, but when you read it backwards, it says, I show not your face, but your heart's desire.
Okay.
The Erised straw.
That's not Latin.
Well, I know, but when you listen to it,
studied Latin would know that.
You could be forgiven to imagine it's some foreign language.
Well, a lot of the spells and stuff are based off of Latin and other things.
They are.
Yeah, so I never thought of when you actually read it. I hadn't read it since I was a wee lad.
I either thought it was just another language or just straight up made up, because again, it's a mystical mirror that is never brought up again, so it can be its own thing, and in a magical world, it makes sense that there may be languages unknown to Muggle minds.
Ooh.
But before the mirror, we get basically a description of how wizards celebrate Christmas, and I like it. It seems pretty neat.
Very cozy.
I wouldn't mind a wizard's Christmas, especially their crackers.
Oh yeah.
Crackers about cheese, Gromit.
No, the party crackers.
Oh yeah.
They're called crackers, goodness. Right?
In the video game, the PlayStation Sorcerer's Stone, you do a wizard's duel with Malfoy, but you don't use your wands. You throw crackers at each other, and so he'll throw them at you, and you have to blast them back at him.
Okay.
And it's hilarious because it just comes out of nowhere, and you're doing it in like broad open in the Great Hall, sort of, not the Great Hall, the like entry hall looking thing. And then BS1 Hagrid just kind of like phases behind you, and it's beautiful. But yeah, crackers are fun.
But the description of the castle is very well done, especially the Great Hall with its 12 Christmas trees.
Seems like they go to a lot of effort to decorate it for very few students, because it seems like almost everyone goes home.
Well, Dumbledore seems to really enjoy the holiday, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just thinks it's, effort well spent.
Sure.
So, just a quick backtrack here. The very beginning of the chapter, it mentions how snows falls everywhere, the lake is solid, and the Weasley twins bewitched snowballs to follow Quirrell around, bouncing off the back of his turban. And knowing the end of the book, and who's actually behind the turban.
The amount of patience that Voldemort must have used there to not just force Quirrell to kill them. Well, I guess it is a turban, so it's not like he was being hit directly in the face. It might have just been mildly annoying.
Yeah, maybe he didn't care, but
because it would have been funny. Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on how thick. I'm not a connoisseur.
It's pretty thick on that picture.
I'm not a connoisseur of turbans, but I always think that there would be enough that it's not like his non-existent nose would have gotten cold.
No, I think didn't he? Oh, actually, no, I don't. We'll find out if he has a nose in due course. All right.
But yeah, that is a mildly amusing thing of Voldemort being annoyed by the twins.
I mean, we don't ever get
like wouldn't that be an amusing encounter though? It's like if Voldemort had like somehow in some extreme circumstance where he meets Fred and George, he's like, I remember you two, you bewitched those stinking snowballs. But who knows? But yeah, so.
So I kind of like how it leads into the thing with them talking about trying to figure out who Nicholas Flamel is, and Hagrid being like, "What? How dare you, sirs and miss?" And like I like how it's like, "Oh, they're looking in the great wizards of the 20th century and notable magical names of our time." It's a really nifty sort of way to be like they're really thorough, but they're looking in the complete wrong place.
Yeah, because, I guess, they're guessing that since it's, between Dumbledore and another man, that this guy probably isn't that old, so surely he'll be within the past century.
He's as old as Dumbledore.
Which, how old is Dumbledore again? Do we know?
As old as his tongue and a little older than his teeth.
Okay,
I do not know.
I think it's like 115.
Okay. We'll go with that.
Yeah. It's just interesting that Nicholas Flamel must have obviously made the Sorcerer's Stone way before he met Dumbledore. Since he's 400 some odd.
400?
Yeah.
I thought it was 600.
660.
Yeah, you're right. Birthday. Yes, he's over 600 years old, so obviously he had the Sorcerer's Stone for quite a while. I was about to call it the Philosopher's Stone because
all he wanted to do.
The title for it. Isn't it called the Philosopher's Stone?
The British one, yeah.
And overseas.
Yeah, all he wanted to do was get his arm and leg back and his brother back. Right? That's what Nicholas Flamel was trying to do.
Wrong story.
Different story, different plot.
Fair enough.
Anyway,
I just love how irritable the librarian is. It's like, you're supposed to be helping these students look at books. It's like, no, I was a librarian not because I wanted people to learn about knowledge, but because I wanted to protect it from
I must protect
grubby
the books.
children.
Well, it's like, surely there are spells that will make... I think it's just, you think in this magical world there'd be spells to, keep you from writing on books and stuff?
No, there's only spells that make books scream.
Yeah,
so we have Hermione leaves to go home for the holidays, and we've learned that her parents are dentists.
Oh, yes,
that's
why they'd be...
particularly important, but...
Well, it's just a running thing. It's mentioned every once in a while. Whenever her parents are brought up, it's almost always mentioned as well that they're dentists. I'm like,
the most muggle of professions.
Well, it's just I feel bad for them because they're in Britain, so.
Oh, that's rude.
Hey! Americans have stupid things too, like diabetes and McDonald's.
Anyways.
You know those two things are also everywhere.
Yeah, but fat people are... America has a lot of fat people, and British people have bad teeth. It's just... And what other And Australia is full of criminals.
Americans are loud and annoying. And terrible tourists.
But we have lots of money.
Yeah.
Okay, Merry Christmas.
Yay, it's Christmas!
No, it's Valentine's Day.
Nuh-uh.
Gilderoy Lockhart's favorite holiday.
You can get back to this book now.
Okie dokie.
But,
yes, and we get a special present.
Oh yes, this is where we are introduced to one of the most useful items to ever exist.
The invisibility cloak.
Do you think how important it is was, like... Do you think J.K. Rowling had what its, like, true, like, origin was at this point?
She'd had to have had some sort of idea.
Or do you think that basically she just realized that this object would be super cool if it was connected to other things?
I mean, we could just look it up.
Again,
well, she would have been like, of course, I planned out every detail meticulously. I knew absolutely everything, except for the things that I did not know.
No, I mean, I think she did plan out a lot of it.
Yeah, I know there were
subtle... Well, it's just interesting to think about the smaller details, like the cloak being part of the most magical trio ever.
Well, I mean, it is mentioned that there was the Grindelwald duel in, like, the train chapter, so I'm pretty sure that, like...
Well, I'm just wondering if...
mentioned it without...
I mean, one of the Deathly Hallows was, when did that become an idea? It's just interesting to think, because, again, when you do since you're writing a book, obviously you know how good world building can be in setting up things, even accidentally. Whereas, like, if you do a really good job setting up the world, then you can basically borrow from yourself later on to be like, oh, this thing that's been like a normal common object is actually this thing, and you think about it, it's like, you know what, that makes sense. Because again, with the cloak, it's like, you know, for most of the time, it's just a device that allows them to do certain things, but, you know, that turns out to be a bit more important. And it's like, but, and how it's connected to those more important things is, it's not really any sort of plot hole or contrivance, because it makes sense how it works. And it's potentially a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that it was planned to at least a certain degree.
But it is one of my favorite objects in Harry Potter. It's just an invisibility cloak. It would just be so much fun to have. Because, you know, again, being invisible is cool. It would be a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And I like the description of it, how it makes it even more special, where it's like water woven into fabric. And I was like, ooh. And I just always wonder, is like, water woven into fabric. Like, the closest thing I can think of is, you know, those little manta rays at the aquarium that you can pet?
Yeah.
That's how I always imagined the cloak felt like. Because, you know, that they're like really soft, but they're wet.
Oh, okay.
So, that's just how I'm not sure if people listening will be like, manta rays is like, so there's an aquarium that we've gone to, and they have these little tiny manta rays that like to be petted. And so they'll swim along the edges, and they'll brush themselves against your hand. And that feeling is what I always imagined the cloak to be. So
sure, I think that could be cool.
I might be just blowing smoke, but
and the first thing Harry does is go to the library at midnight.
You skipped dinner.
I did skip dinner.
Having fun.
Also, you forgot.
You got a library card.
Yeah, that. But it's, you also skipped the Weasley sweater.
You're right. I'm skipping all
they're the only ones
parts.
with letters on them.
Okay, let's cover the sweaters, and then we can go to the library.
Okay.
So, yeah, basically this is in pretty much every book. It's a tradition of the Weasley family to knit, for Mrs. Weasley to knit sweaters for all the children and people.
And she gives her least favorite child the maroon sweater.
Oh, no.
I'm still conflicted on whether I should consider that, like, true, or if it's just, like, I don't know.
It's a lot to keep in mind.
But it's like,
very busy.
So he says that he doesn't like maroon, right?
He says he hates maroon.
Has he bothered telling her, though?
He could probably complain a lot.
So I'm sure we could probably, if we ever find in a book, it can be pointed out. But it's just at this time, I'm like, so you say you don't like maroon. Have you bothered telling her, though? Because, again, how hard would it be to just change the color of it magically?
That is an excellent question.
Well, it's just we do know that it's possible to change the color of things.
No, you can only change the color of eyebrows.
And ink?
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's sort of explained by how much of a handful the twins are and how all the other children are running around doing things. It's like things are gonna be missed. It's a nice sweater.
But we also get this is a bit of a character thing for Ron, where he said,
he gets all
basically he's like, oh yeah, I mentioned how you thought you wouldn't get anything for Christmas because you sadly have the worst you have the worst aunt and uncle ever, and so
he wasn't blessed to have an aunt and uncle that were dentists. He had a drill manufacturer. Directly from the drill manufacturers. But yeah, it's just,
we get one of my favorite jokes of, oh look, there isn't a letter on Harry's. She obviously thinks he's not stupid, but we're not stupid either.
Gred and Forge.
We know that we're Gred and Forge. And that always just gave me a little snicker. I always enjoy that. And then Percy walks in, and they say Christmas is a time for family. You're not gonna sit with the other prefects. And it's like, wait, do prefects just hang out together all the time?
Yeah.
It's like, so once...
They got that nice bathroom.
Did Percy just abandon any friends he had before to hang out with once he became a prefect?
Prefects is not supposed to have fun.
Anyway, but yeah, then we have the lunch dinner?
The dinner, yeah.
Dinner.
Which, again, sounds... It's described super well.
And you got your crackers and your
I would just
hats.
love these. You get these crazy cool hats and even a chessboard and stuff. It's like, imagine if you had a muggle with you being like, hey, you could put phones in there. It's like, well, actually, I'm not sure how. Actually, no, because technology doesn't work with magic, right?
Because this was like the 80s or like early 90s,
yeah,
so you'd get like
90s.
a brick phone.
A Nokia.
I don't even think Nokia was around at that point.
Well, that's just the first brick phone I can think of.
If it was, then Tom Riddle would have made a Horcrux out of it, as per the meme.
Because it is truly an object that cannot be destroyed.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, or like it will still function even when damaged.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the wizard crackers are cool, and it's just a very nice, wholesome event.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore is just super chill. But yeah, we then go to that night where, even though he goes to bed, he just can't get out of his mind this cloak that was sent to him with only this little note saying "use it well," and that was left to him, and that it was his father's. Which that's probably one of the most important things, that it was his father's. This is like the first thing for him. That
Speaking of fathers,
yeah. So he decides, I want to try this out, but instead of just, I don't know, just like walking around during the daytime and having fun, poking Fred and George in the back of the head and seeing them turn around and be like, what?
Well, no, they'd use the map and they'd like slap him.
Well, they would have to pull it out though, but and also he doesn't know about it. But but instead of just like trying out during the daytime to just like walk in front of people and be like, huh? No, he's like, you know what? I'm going to do the thing that I know is not allowed, and this will help me do it. So he decides to, sneak into the restricted section of the library. Not because he's evil, but because he thinks Nicholas Flamel might be in there. Because obviously the place restricted, full of dark magic or heavily, extremely complicated magic, is, of course, a random guy is going to be mentioned in there.
I'd just like to think that the Screaming Book isn't like a dark magic book or anything. It's just like a really mundane, silly book that just... screams, and that's why it's there, because it's like, I don't want this Screaming Book in the normal section. It's like, this copy of Twilight does not need to be in the normal section, so it screams every time it's opened.
Well, I guess that would be an interesting like security system to be like, if someone's in there that shouldn't be, they probably don't know what they're doing. That's probably so they might accidentally reason. Because what's the book described as? Isn't it described as like a large
black and silver volume?
Maybe it's 12 fail-safe ways to charm witches.
But it looks fancy. It will probably catch your eye. You'll probably want to pick it up more than the blood-stained one. So, but yeah, you open it and it just screams. And even after he shuts it, it keeps screaming. Which, again, I'm not sure if that's just how the book works, or if it's like a secure, sort of book for security to alert people if the restricted. And do you think all the books? No.
I think all of them would.
No, that would be an interesting spell. If only Madam Pince can remove the books, otherwise they'll scream when opened. But obviously I'm not sure how that would work.
Well, it could just be that it's the middle of the night and no one should be opening these books. without permission.
Why not set it on, like, on the door then? Like, if the door opens after an hour, it just goes,
Ah!
Hey, you said no screaming.
I said no screaming for you, but...
But your signal was that if you screamed, then I was supposed to scream.
No.
Okay, get your scream out. Do it. No, impersonate the book. No. Do it now.
Okay.
I guess the movie
It's kind of
does...
like the movie one.
No, the movie is scary. That was actually, like... I loved watching the first movie, but that scene, I always was just super, like, tense. Because that scream was just blood-curdling. And the CG, like, the special effects for it was really good. And because it's basically like a trapped soul trying to get out, going, ah!
Looks like Emotep in a sandstorm.
Well, sort of.
Yeah, I guess, I have no idea what you're talking about, but...
No, we need to watch The Mummy and talk about it.
Okay.
So, yeah, you got some Filch, and you got some Snape, and you got some sprinting and running, and...
Yeah, it's interesting to be like, what are the odds that Harry randomly running around, he still ends up near Snape and Filch? Because, so Filch is entering the library as Harry is sneaking out, and then he just runs for it, and then he ends up in a random, he doesn't even know where he is, and then they just show up, and it's like, wait, why did they come down this random corridor? It just happens to be, like, it's just coincidence that, because, again, we need them to be in this oddly narrow corridor, so that it forces him to enter a classroom. Because, you know, he notices a door that's ajar, and so he's able to squeeze in it to avoid being touched by Snape and Filch.
And that's when he finds the mirror.
Yeah, it's just awkwardly up against a wall, which I guess that's interesting to think that, so since the mirror is used in the protection of the stone, that means that Dumbledore either had been, like, do you think he just ordered this mirror? Did he, and I was just waiting for it to show up, and then it arrived, like, around Christmas time, so he just kind of had to put it in a random unused classroom and set up the final obstacle?
Well, that means that the stone wasn't defended from September.
Did Dumbledore just have it, maybe? Do you think Dumbledore just had it on him?
You know, maybe he gave Harry the cloak and was like, you know what, I bet he's going to use this to sneak around. I'm going to be really obvious and leave this thing out here so he can look at his parents. And then I'm going to put it back.
Wait, so you think he might have taken it out, put it... Oh.
He enchanted he was sitting in the library and he enchanted the book to scream as Harry pulled it from the shelf.
So you're saying he knew the future?
Yep. No, he followed Harry.
So he followed Harry and summoned the mirror to go into that classroom the moment he tried to enter it?
Yep.
Huh.
You know what? I think it makes more sense that it had just arrived or something. And
okay, it's just you got Quirrell's troll sitting down there with the stone.
I don't know. It was a
Fluffy.
Yeah.
Fluffy is the only one that is really guarding it. Because,
well, I don't know.
I mean, they have all.
They could have had the other spells set up and everything.
But I mean, Quirrell can't get past Fluffy, not until afterwards. So at the moment,
well, at this time he could still be trying to figure out how to get past.
Yes,
like,
but he hasn't figured it out yet.
Well, he could have also been working on the other because we don't get the dragon egg bit until later.
Yeah.
So we're not sure how long Quirrell was working on the other, like, how long it took him to figure out the other teacher spells. Because, you know, Hermione theorizes that he would be able to figure out because he was involved, but it's also possible that, you know, maybe he didn't quite figure out, like, maybe, like, he knew Professor Sprout was going to use plants, but he wasn't quite sure what, and it's obviously really hard to check since you can't, so maybe she just had, you know, so, it's just interesting to think that, you know, let's see, it's September the 1st, so, was that 4 months?
Yeah, till December, so it's about 4 months.
So the package was grabbed at the end of July, so roughly 4 to 5 months, that stone was not in the mirror.
Yeah.
Potentially. So, but yeah, so, he, you know, as any kid would be, he'd be like, oh, look, a mirror. I'm going to walk up to it and not see myself, and it'll be funny. And then he scares himself because he sees not only himself, but an entire crowd of people standing behind him. And it takes him a while, but he realizes that he's looking at his family, and it's a really nice character moment because it really just it pulls on your heartstrings a bit because like the description and what he's feeling and stuff is just all really well done.
Yeah, well, I really like how it's more than just his parents. Like, I think that's kind of a neat thing. I think it did it well in the movie, but the book part, it's just nice to see that, like...
It makes sense that due to it also being more visual based, that they would want to focus more on just his parents.
You mean not the little old man who looked as though he had Harry's knobby knees? Anyhow,
what does knobby knees mean?
Knees that are shaped like doorknobs and function in a similar capacity.
No.
Hello, Amora.
Oh no.
Yeah, I really like how the contrast between what Harry sees and what Ron sees as in the coming sort of pages here. Because you have the like how different they are as people and what they value.
But it makes sense due to their life experiences. So yes, I guess yeah, we can skip forward to Harry telling Ron about it and them going out is it straight up just the next night?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they go and to the Mirror of Erised again that night, and yeah, so we get the interesting thing of Harry. He sees his family, but Ron sees himself alone, and he's head boy and Quidditch captain, and he has does he have both the House Cup and the Quidditch Cup?
Yep.
So basically, it just shows him achieving everything that his brothers have and more.
Do you think this mirror shows the future?
No.
It is interesting to be like, oh, it almost kind of did because he was prefect and they did win the House Cup multiple times and they even won the Quidditch Cup multiple times. So, sure, he wasn't
he wasn't the one who did all that.
He didn't do all of that himself,
he was part of it.
He was part of it at one point or another. I guess he was never head boy. He skipped that final year.
Big head boy.
But yeah, it's a interesting bit of like again, it is the clue to how the mirror works. I guess before Dumbledore explains it.
Yeah.
Where again, Harry, never knowing his family, would desperately want to know and see them, and Ron with the family being the youngest boy, having all this basically competition, I guess you could say.
This mirror will neither give us knowledge or truth. Men have wasted away before it.
But yeah, so they're in front of the mirror, and they get into a bit of a fight over it, and this is when we get the first instance of the question that's never really answered, but can cats see through the cloak?
I think they can smell through it.
Yes, that is mentioned, but it's always interesting. Well, I guess would we count that instance in the fourth book that cats can't see through the cloak because she doesn't react to him in that circumstance?
Yeah.
She's only seems to be reacting because you think, she just sees a guy stuck in a stairway, she would be freaking out. But, So, okay, never mind. I guess I was going to do a funny we shall never know, but never mind. I think we did just answer our own, the question.
We do know.
So,
Mr. Owl, can cats see through the invisible cloak in Harry Potter? Let's find out.
What?
Apparently not.
Okay.
What are you referencing now?
The Tootsie Pop commercial.
Oh yeah,
hey,
because
Mr.
we've
Owl.
all seen the Tootsie Pop commercial.
Oh, come on. Everyone's seen the Tootsie Pop commercial.
We have. Well, I have. Have you?
I did not.
No,
Ha, see, you're the only one. You are outnumbered by the non-pop.
Filthy muggles.
Well, excuse me.
Are you ready to find out who Nicholas Flamel is?
Wait, we find that out?
Well, I guess we get so basically, after that night, so they're forced to leave early because Mrs. Norris is snooping around, and then the next morning, Ron is trying to convince Harry not to go back to the mirror, but he decides to anyway, and so that night he's able to get there real quick because he knows his way now, and he doesn't even really check the room or anything. He just throws out the cloak and is ready to sit down and spend all night with his family when it appears Dumbledore was there this whole time.
Whoa.
And, he doesn't need a cloak to be invisible. And we get the explanation that the mirror shows your deepest desire, which, again, is always an interesting thought experiment of, like, if you or I looked in it, what we would see. Because it's like, I think I know what I want the most, but at the same time, do I know what I want the most? Because I like a lot of things.
A nice pair of thick woolen socks.
Oh yeah, we also just get this little bit of character building for Dumbledore and his and how he, I guess you see how he thinks and how he's able to take even the mundane and make it an interesting thought.
Well, no, that was like the literal lie, though. That's the only personal question he's.
Well,
ever
no, but it's just
Dumbledore.
like, of all the things he could lie about, he could have said instrument, but no, he went with you like, well,
Socks.
yeah, he teaches a valuable lesson of you can never have too many socks because, and I agree, socks are very useful.
I do like socks.
And I think it's just a bit of it's a character thing for him where, again, of everything he could have, like, because we basically figure out what he sees in the mirror, which he also sees his family, right? Because
Actually, I don't think we ever figure out.
I think it's heavily implied.
it's very, like, I think, doesn't Harry theorize what he sees?
He always says that, like, that's why he understood why it had such an effect on Harry, meaning that he saw something similar.
But again, it just shows how at least, like, how mystical, but I guess, is wholesome the right word for Dumbledore? I always thought that Dumbledore it can be a rather wholesome character in these early books.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, again, it's interesting, but at the end of this chapter, Harry is like, I'm not really sure if he told me the truth, but it was rather personal. Like, again, you're asking someone what their not deepest darkest, but just their deepest desire, like the one thing they would want above all else. Is like that. Like, if you could, like, ask someone and they could reply to you because they have a magical mirror that tells them what they want, then it's interesting how many people would say what they see and how many would just make up the socks.
Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what you want.
What I really want.
Hey, careful! We don't want to get copyrighted.
There's no way that's gonna get copyrighted.
Anyway.
Hey! The Universal Music Corporation, whatever, it's death on YouTube.
I appreciate your view of quality of my voice, but
Yes, your music is so good that it may accidentally get us struck.
Oh no.
I think
Anyway,
the Tootsie
but
Pop one's more likely to
But
do
that ends chapter 12.
So we're on
And it
chapter
puts on
13.
chapter 13, which is what?
A man running into a forest.
It's the second Quidditch match where Snape is refereeing.
Is it just called the second Quidditch?
No, it's called Nicholas Flamel.
Oh yeah, that's what I was trying to get.
But the first part is about the Quidditch match that Harry ends in 5 minutes, while Ron, Neville,
It is an interesting...
Malfoy, Crabbe and Goyle have a fist fight.
Yeah, and Neville being uber Chad. Seriously, they need to do a
this is my
Ender
favorite-
Shadow style Neville
Wait a minute!
version of Potter.
So before
Great.
as you said, this is with they actually figure out Nicholas Flamel at the very beginning, right? Because they're in the common room. Neville comes clamoring in because Malfoy stuck his legs together,
Yeah.
and Harry gives him the last of his chocolate frogs.
Snape's referee.
And that's where it has the card that
Pretend to break your
about
leg.
Dumbledore.
Really break your leg.
you're skipping around.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to get we're talking about important plot here. Well, where this is how they figure out basically this is like the main plot point that pushes the story forward, you could say.
Yeah.
Because so he gives the chocolate frog to Neville, help him feel better. He gets the card back and it has Dumbledore on it, and it mentions how he works with Nicholas Flamel. And because of what he reads, Hermione remembers a random book that she got for light reading. But, that's where it describes Nicholas Flamel and how he's over 600 years old. And so that's how they figure out that it's the Sorcerer's Stone that is being protected.
Yeah.
So, again, very important. And, anything else here? Apart from, I guess we have a great Neville character moment of he's told that he's worth 12 of Malfoy. And I have yet to use that to help someone feel better.
But Snape's gonna referee, which he never does ever again, and like imagining Snape on a broom seems wrong somehow, but
Really?
I love the part where it's just like, "Don't play," said Hermione at once. "Say you're ill," said Ron. "Pretend to break your leg," Hermione suggested. "Really break your leg," said Ron.
Like, that wouldn't work, though? Because,
Madame
again, Madame Pomfrey
Pomfrey.
can just pick up broken bones super fast. So, like, Wood, he would be like, oh no, my seeker has a broken leg. Quick! Okay, it's good, let's go.
Dissolve all the bones in your arm, because growing them back takes a long time.
Yeah, that would take quite a while, so that would work. But, but it's just funny how, like, scary Snape is to them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, Snape knows that we're onto him, so therefore he's going to try to kill me again.
And he's only 30 years old. Ish.
But
34, 32.
Well, so after the game, that Harry again.
Well, it's interesting to think that. Wait, so can any teacher volunteer to referee the Quidditch match?
You can imagine Hagrid doing it.
Well, no, I was just thinking it would be funny if like Flitwick or something.
Yeah, he'd just kind of float around though. He doesn't need a broom to fly. He's like Voldemort.
No, he's not.
He's exactly like Voldemort.
Well, why? Because he's short?
No, because he's charmful. He can charm the air. He picks him up.
So he can just charm himself to float?
Yep. He's charming that way. Yeah.
Is that the point of brooms, though? They're charmed to fly?
Okay.
It's just interesting that, well, I guess it's not really plot relevant. Well, this case it's plot relevant, but I guess in the future it's not really necessary to have other teachers be referees.
Light reading here, it says the ancient study of alchemy is a precise science, and the opening of that TV show, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Anyway, but yeah, so we do get the quickest Quidditch match ever.
Yeah.
Then?
Because, well, I guess Wood instructs him to catch the snitch as fast as possible, so Snape doesn't have that much time to give penalties to Hufflepuff for no reason. Though apparently, is it Fred or George that hit a bludger at him? Apparently. It's mentioned that I think someone, like, hits a bludger at him or something like that. And it's like, okay, that actually makes sense why you would get a penalty for that. Or is it just the beaters hit a bludger and he called them out for no reason?
Yeah, Snape just awarded Hufflepuff a penalty because George Weasley had hit a bludger at him.
It's like, that makes sense. Like, I feel like, that's like the most reasonable action, actually. Like, you can't hit a bludger at the referee.
Yeah.
But no, so we get, again, this is all told from Ron and Hermione's perspective.
Yeah.
And, for some reason, is it when do they mention how many Slytherins, or, like, how many people are wearing green in the Quidditch stadium? Is it in this book, or is it in, like, the book 2?
I have no idea.
Well, it's just
I don't remember them really being mentioned in this book.
I think it might be book 2, but it's just at one point they mentioned how many people are wearing green in the stadium, and so we might want to use that opportunity to break down how many people are in Hogwarts, just for scientific reasons. But we can get to that later if we ever remember and see it. I think it's the second book that mentions how many Slytherins are at the Quidditch pitch. Anyway, but yeah, so, Harry shows his proficiency in being a seeker. He just gets it super quick and fast. And Ron and Neville fight Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle. And to the point that Neville is knocked out cold and stuff like that. And it also gives Malfoy a bit of extra fuel for vengeance for a later occurrence, which happens immediately, right?
So, well, first we follow Snape. Because
oh yeah, for some reason Harry is bold by himself putting away his broom, and
he flies over the Forbidden Forest, and Dumbledore doesn't look over and be like, "Harry, get out of there! That's dangerous."
Yeah, I do wonder why people don't just fly above the forest more often, because I feel like it seems really easy to do so.
I think that you're supposed to be on brooms only for Quidditch purposes, so the fact that he's flying over the forest is not particularly...
And it is, dusk or something?
Yeah, and once the 5th student got turned into a barrel and exploded out there.
Or a giant spider ate them.
Mm-hmm.
Or they ran into poachers.
Yep, so Snape and Quirrell are in the forest. Harry overhears Snape threatening Quirrell.
An interesting setup for a scene, right? It's like, in all the ways she decided to write Harry riding his broom along the treetops and just hanging onto a random branch to listen to them. It's like,
I think it works a lot better in the movie. I think this scene in the book is, I'd say, one of the weaker ones.
Well, yeah, because it just happens. It happens at the same time as the cloak incident, right?
Yeah.
So in the movie, when Harry runs away out of the library because of the screaming book, that's when he runs into Snape and Quirrell talking, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. It's super late at night. It's Christmas. No one's around. Makes sense for them to have the and then Phil shows up and they run off. But that's just an interest. It's just interesting that for some reason, I just think it wasn't necessary, but it's not bad either. But again, I guess it does show that. Again, it sadly stacks more evidence against Snape from their limited view of just like, oh no, look, he's bullying Quirrell, trying to Quirrell. I say
he's
Quill.
Being quarrelsome.
Yeah, so yeah, he's badgering Professor Quirrell, and he seems to be all mean, and it's like, yeah. So that's the end of that chapter, right?
Yeah. Now we're here with Norbert.
Yeah, so that's chapter 14. Dang, some of these chapters are just short, aren't they?
They are.
But yeah, we get chapter 14. Is it just the Norwegian Ridgeback?
Norbert, the Norwegian Ridgeback.
What a great name!
Look
for
at all those
dragon.
ridges. It looks like a little crocodile with giant legs.
Yeah, the drawing is rather amusing. But I guess yeah. So how does it open?
It opens with them studying for exams.
Yeah. Okay.
Because even though the exams are ages away, they should have started last month. So Hermione is having them study with her.
And they're studying in the library full of screaming books. And they're not screaming, but Hagrid walks in. And he's
they spot Hagrid
shifty.
acting suspicious.
He grabs the screaming books.
Well, it's just funny that Ron is so bored that he decides to go into the, not the aisle, but the section, the section of books that he was in. And he discovers that Hagrid was looking up dragons.
Dragon species of Great Britain and Ireland, from egg to inferno, a dragon keeper's guide.
We get the little bit of world building that, there are dragons everywhere, and the Ministry has a job keeping it all hush-hush from the Muggles.
And Warlock's Convention of 1709.
Yes, for some reason,
Ron just knows this. Well, I guess his brother works with dragons, so maybe he would.
Is it kind of a nice thing that Ron appreciates his brother enough to remember things that would be interesting to his brother?
Well, he says that everyone knows that, so maybe it's just...
Or is that a wizard thing?
It's like
I always thought it was a nice little, brotherly thing, where it's like, oh, look, he knows things that his brother's really passionate about, because obviously, his brother would have mentioned it, and so he just remembers it because he likes his brother. I thought it. But it also makes sense that maybe it's a wizarding thing for some reason to know that when dragons were outlawed as garden pets.
Something like that.
But could you imagine having a dragon? That would be sick. You could fly around. You could probably teach it to roast things to perfection. It could guard things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then Harry, Ron, and Hermione find out he has an egg, currently a dragon egg, and he is getting it to hatch. So that's a bad idea.
And Malfoy overhears it, because Malfoy, contrary to popular belief, does not have a large mouth, he has large ears.
They get the note saying it's hatching, and Ron and Hermione are arguing about, skipping class to go see, because how many times are you going to see a dragon hatch? It's like, shut up! And, of course, how unlucky is it that Malfoy is walking by and he heard something. But, after herbology, they quickly run on down, and they're able to see it flop out of its egg. It looks like a broken umbrella or something, right?
Yep, and so does Malfoy.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like a broken umbrella.
Yeah, I realized grammatically that sounded. No, he sees the dragon. That looks like a broken umbrella.
But, yeah, so we basically get this, I guess a bit of a side plot, if you think about it, because, no, actually it is very important, because since this ends up with them going to the Forbidden Forest, and this allows Harry to figure out some more stuff, like the Voldemort stuff. So, I guess this isn't really a, random B-plot, because it's actually quite... It leads to the certain other events that push the main story forward. So never mind, I pull it back. It's not a B plot.
Well, it's nice how it all flows together. Like, it's the kind of thing where you could be
Well, it
excused
makes
to
sense.
not see how it goes into itself. Like, it's like, oh, is this a subplot? It's like, no, it's actually really integral, but it's so integrated that it...
Well, it's a great way for, like, also the passage of time, where it's not just, they studied for this amount of time, and then it was this date, and now this event happened that is important to the story. It's like, there are things happening during the school year, and so... It is just, well, obviously, you know, for most students, it's not quite as eventful as it is for Harry. But yeah, so they're trying to figure out a way to stop Hagrid from being arrested, and Harry's like, oh, we can ask your brother Charlie, Ron. And so they send a letter, they get back saying, oh, yes, we would love to get this illegal dragon to safely out of this.
But my friends can't be seen with it, so we'll need to meet you at the tallest tower at midnight.
The highest room in the tallest tower.
Well, it's interesting to think that, so in the third book it's mentioned that there are protections on the castle that stop you from getting into the grounds, but I just guess that it wasn't, she didn't really think about that plot point.
Yeah, that would definitely be an error.
And also just the fact
it's one of the small errors, yeah.
It's like, I suppose I know why they're not asking why the children aren't asking Dumbledore, because they don't quite know how he would react to this, and they don't.
You wonder why Hagrid hasn't gotten caught by, like, with how Dumbledore seems to know what's going on. It's just like, well, especially since, you know, Hagrid gets so busy that he's neglecting his gamekeeper duties. You think Dumbledore would have been like, excuse me, what?
What are you doing? And I'm
you got a license for that?
No, you don't. No, so I guess I always wondered how these random people were able to show up at midnight when there should be wards around the castle that prevent.
Yeah, because it's mentioned in Hogwarts of History.
Yeah, so maybe that is something she didn't think about till later.
Yeah, but yeah, again, that's just one. I don't really think.
I mean, best case scenario could have been that they added them after, like, the dangerous stuff happened the first year, and then the second year,
well, it's just the way Hermione talks about it sounds like that she read about it in the Hogwarts of History book, so that it was already a thing.
Maybe.
But again, it's not a huge. I would not. It doesn't destroy anything. It's like, that's just what happens with stories as they get on and on. There's going to be small.
As they progress.
The potential for small inconsistencies will, happen, and. I don't really think this is really that much big of an issue, but it's just interesting to mention that, they fly in when technically they shouldn't have been able to.
Yep. Well, alas, speaking of things that technically shouldn't have happened, but do, Malfoy also finds out that they're...
Oh yeah, because Ron gets bitten,
yes.
and so Malfoy comes and visits him to ask up for a book.
Well, to make fun of him, and then grabs a book from him he tells Madame Pomfrey he wants to borrow a book from him.
Yeah, but it's just he happens, but he just happened to choose the right book that had the letter.
Yep.
Because he couldn't have known
he
about
already
the letter.
saw him before, because he went down and saw him in person, and then this is the thing that tells him where the people are going to be.
Yes.
Well, so no, it's just interesting that the letter happened to be in this one book. So obviously, since first years have similar books, it makes sense that he could just name a book. And
I mean, how many books is Ron going to be carrying around?
Well,
he doesn't like studying.
Either way,
I don't know. It's just obviously
it was a bit of bad luck.
Yeah, it's a real rotten luck that he happened to choose the book that he had Charlie's letter in. So,
but
because obviously he already knew that a dragon existed, and so it's like, oh, your hand was bitten, and now it's ominously, it's green. So I could totally just spill the beans, but I'm not going to at this moment because, again, he's trying to get back at him. But yeah, it's a bit of coincidence and bad luck that he discovers this way he discovers the dragon actually leaving, and he realizes that his blackmail won't work.
Yeah, he's got to cash in that check.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's now midnight. They're grabbing Norbert, and they're walking up the tower.
Hagrid is sad.
Hagrid is very sad, and who can blame him? But they...
You wonder why they don't use a levitation charm on it, because it's mentioned several times how heavy and hard it is to move. And it's lucky that Norbert doesn't make enough noise. Like, could you imagine just like a little dragon in a box going and it's like...
They'd probably just think it's Pius being funny.
Yes.
Well, it's just they're hiding in the cloak when Filch catches Malfoy.
Yeah.
And so it's just good. It's just lucky
that... Actually, no, it's Professor McGonagall.
She catches Malfoy?
Yes. Yep. And she's...
Filch captures.
Oh, yeah, Filch captures Harry and
Ron. She takes 20 points from Slytherin.
We will...
Yeah, 20 points.
We will be talking about this soon, about why this is an issue.
And then Harry Potter has a dragon. A likely story.
She drags him off. They get up the tower, and Charlie's friends show up, and they harness it to their brooms, and off they go. And
then they forget the cloak,
which they are 11.
Yeah.
And I guess with like, I guess it's kind of that classic. You put your phone down, and then something happens, and so you go off doing, and then you just go off doing your day, and you realize that you didn't pick up your phone.
Yeah, something like that.
So you think the cloak would have been a bit more important than a phone? Like,
I don't know.
It's just the one thing they need to get around the school without being caught.
We
and just
are in trouble.
Do you think Filch heard like the disturbance and just came snooping around? And
that's his job.
Hearing.
No, he's supposed to be snooping around.
I know.
He's paid to do this.
Well, it's like Filch has to sleep too. It's just interesting.
Not tonight.
Yeah, but yeah, like, so he goes to, he might have heard the disturbance with Malfoy and McGonagall, and so he was like, there might be more students looking about.
Well, we find out that Neville had come out because he had overheard Malfoy talking about
he was trying to
warn
them.
So,
seriously, Chad is, not Chad, Neville is the Chad and the actual chosen one, and there needs to be a Neville POV book.
Get on it, Rowling.
So, with Professor McGonagall, she's like, oh my goodness, 4 of you out? Well, yeah, I guess 4 because...
4 students out of bed all in one night. 3 of them from my own house.
How dare you? And, you know what? You're all receiving detention and 50 points each because...
Well, so is it a movie thing where she specifies that it's for all of them? Or does she say...
Yeah, she specifies it 50 points each. I know.
No, I'm asking, does she say... Does she say 50 points, and then Harry's like, what, 50? And then she says 50, and then changes it to each? Because at first it might have just been 50 points from Gryffindor altogether, but due to his interruption... Okay, it was just...
It makes sense that she's more harsh on her own students, and especially with how she sees it as them basically manipulating people.
You know how those, like, when you're in trouble with an adult, though, and, you know, it's like they give you your punishment, but then you object to it, and so they increase the punishment? I always thought it might have been that, where him objecting to 50, she decided to make it 150. Or... Yeah,
that's messed up.
But yeah, it's like... On one hand, it's like, yeah, you know, being tougher on your own students makes sense. But the other time...
Harsh is carving messages into the back of your students' hands. This is totally necessary, and I think it's justified.
No, I think it's messed up.
Malfoy's guilty of the same thing, and he only gets 20.
Yeah, but he was the one who was being manipulated by, from her perspective, he's the one being manipulated. These two are the ones who are being, like, not only did they, like, try to get this kid in trouble, but they also went to watch it, which is just sick and wrong.
That's what my confusion is from, is that, so you have these students, you ask them, what are you doing? They don't tell you. So, you don't know what they're doing.
I just feel like, Hermione and Harry, they're not the ones to play practical jokes on people.
They're 11.
Oh, no, also...
Well, but Hermione's like a model student. You think that
she also would be snuck off to fight a mountain troll by her own admission.
Yeah, apparently that is what... But no, it's more that
she needs to teach these
Neville,
troublesome
though?
students.
What about Neville?
Yeah, Neville doesn't deserve this. He was being manipulated, technically.
Yeah, well, he's Neville.
So,
I think she takes 50 points from him, too.
I would have questions, and I'd be concerned. So, I'm just very wondering about... Well, I guess that she can't really do anything if they don't cooperate with her, and they can't tell her that there's a dragon, so...
Though,
alas.
you think
1,000 points off.
1,000 points for having a dragon!
Neville can handle it. He's the Uber Chad, and Emperor Neville protects.
But yeah, I guess, But no, I admit, again, on one hand, it makes sense. On the other hand, it's just a bit extreme. Again, 150 points. I mean, that's literally a snitch. That's a snitch worth of points.
I guess I have more of an issue with them getting house points based on a sporting event. I think that's a little more absurd than them getting points off for breaking curfew.
Yeah, but I'm not quite sure if the house points directly correlate with how many points you get in a game, because that would mean that there would be way more points with each house. Like, because on average, like, they get, like 50 to 100 points in a game, potentially. Like, unless you have the crazy Hufflepuff match, where it ends in, like, 5 minutes, and so only, like, 20 points is scored. But I guess it's never stated if the points you get from... Well, actually, no, because they do mention how they're not in the running for the House Cup because Harry wasn't there for the last Quidditch match. So I guess that is an issue. That actually is a potential issue, but I would still say that taking 150 points for a first offense seems a bit harsh.
I mean, it's a second offense with the troll issue.
Yeah, and she doesn't know about the other offenses. So it's only the second for her.
Well, the troll thing wasn't even shouldn't even count as a first offense, though, because remember, they got rewarded. Harry did.
But Hermione was present. Hermione's blatant rule breaking rubbed off on
So because
Neville.
the star pupil happened to be involved in two slightly mischievous... Well, I guess... I would almost say the troll is worse than just being out of bed. Like... One is literally, like, you end up dying, and the other one was just, you're in a hallway, so... I
mean, this is a hallway full of three-headed dogs and, like, Peeves that could just, like, snap and kill somebody. Or...
I guess it's hard to tell because, like, the Whistling Wolves actually, like, as cool as it would be to live in it, it is actually kind of dangerous.
Kind of? You mean, like...
Okay, it is extremely dangerous for, like, you can, like, basically the potential for injuries seem to be... super high.
No, I think it's...
Like, if they didn't have magic healing, then it would just be, like, crazy dangerous.
No, so they're being punished for this, and their punishment is not only you lose all these points, we're also going to send you to one of the most dangerous places on the grounds at midnight.
Is that worse than self-inflicting torture on yourself by writing into your hand in the 5th book? They've got a dog to protect them.
Yeah, a cowardly dog.
I don't know why they don't just do it in the daytime. Like, that would make it a little, like... It's just, you think in the Forbidden Forest, like, the more dangerous creatures might be nocturnal, potentially. So you think you'd want to do it during the daytime where it's a bit easier to see. You don't have to worry about things sneaking up on you as much. You'd probably be able to find the unicorn way faster if you weren't just, let me use the light of my wand and hope for the best.
Yeah, so the second part of that punishment...
Wait, do they even use the light of the wands in this? Not just
yeah, they don't know Lumos yet.
So
they don't learn that till later.
The centaurs are nocturnal because they're always looking at the stars, and so night is actually safer because you've got these semi-friendly neutral ally type things.
Unless you're the 5th one where they're really mad
that
you assume they're friendly.
That's only after, though.
Oh, okay.
That's only after Ferenzi betrays his entire species.
Day, I think.
Okay.
But I want to say just because they're stargazers means they're nocturnal. I mean, there's plenty of, like, if we look at, past civilizations, it wasn't like they were just like, we are only up at night because we study the stars. It's like, I guess some people just go to bed early, or, maybe they just stay up late.
No, but you want to know the third part of this punishment that I think is sort of silly. Well, I suppose the points, I can understand the points. And then them being told, you're being punished, and you need to do something useful. You can't just write lines.
Except that they use writing lines as a punishment in future books.
But only in the 5th one, right?
No, another.
No,
I don't think... second one.
Flitwick has I think a Seamus or something do lines because he did something stupid with his wand, and he was like, I am not a baboon brandishing a stick.
Oh, and then the second one, Gilderoy Lockhart has. Oh, actually, no, that's writing fan mail. Never mind. That is useful. Never mind.
Helpful.
But so in
well, it's just multiple. I know they mention lines multiple times throughout the books that people had to do lines.
Well, maybe it's because in the first book here, you've got them finding like this monstrous Voldemort creature eating unicorns, and they're like, you know what? Maybe we should do slightly more normal punishment. Because that's Draco's dad, Mr. Malfoy, must have been like, you sent him into the woods so that he could see my former boss eating unicorns.
Well, no, so
Maybe
again,
because
like,
at this time he actually would have a bit of,
Yeah, he was the governor.
He's on the school governor.
So-
So,
Draco, or Lucius Malfoy is the reason why lines exist.
so they brought lines back.
in
Yes.
Harry's second year, because in the first one he was sent to apprehend a unicorn killer.
Yeah, it's like unicorns are like super magical creatures that are really fast and stuff.
Yeah,
so
werewolves can't catch unicorns; they're too slow.
Maybe
So
they
what's
just thought it was
fast
a
enough?
bow
Oh, that's
truckle.
another.
The
That's,
bow
that's
truckle was
another,
eating the unicorn.
Well, the werewolf thing is another classic like rolling plot hole.
There are werewolves in these woods. Oh
Well, it's like,
yeah,
how
but they're
common
gone.
firstly, you wouldn't have to worry if it's not
The full moon.
full moon, right? So you would just be like, oh yeah, there's just some guy. There's just some guys in the woods that turn into
That would be
wolves.
kind of creepy near a school, though.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, you're right. It would be kind of weird to be like, hey, who are you guys? It's like, oh, don't worry about it. What? So and that's another kind of rolling plot hole where it's like, does she mean werewolves as in people who turn to wolves during the full moon, or are there just magical wolves?
I think it's definitely werewolves, but it just kind of shows the
And
like
you didn't answer my
existing.
question.
It shows the
You
existing.
said, oh, it's definitely werewolves. It's like, I know that.
No,
but,
like werewolves, like in the world with the Lupin and stuff. I think it's the idea is that like
So they're
at
just
that
werewolves
point-
hiding in the forest.
it was a rumor, and the only thing they really said about it is that there's worse than werewolves in there. They don't say like, yes, there are people suffering with an affliction, some sort of disease.
Medical disease. Well, magical disease.
It's just interesting how they talk about it in this book. Where again, they talk to them like they're just a dangerous creature and not just afflicted people.
Well, that's because they
I
see
think
them
it would
as
even-
dangerous creatures.
I mean,
Fenrir
Fenrir
is-
is
massive prejudice.
massively horrible,
Well,
dangerous
well,
person.
yeah, but it's just like, depending on the circumstances. Like I would find werewolves to be actually more like dangerous than your average animal, since they're very much capable of higher thought.
So
Yeah,
I think
werewolves in
the real
London.
thing is that Hagrid knew that the forest was full of these crazy spider things, and so he's like, oh, I bet it's the spiders that are doing it, so I'm just gonna freak out these kids by showing them the spiders, and then be like, go away, spiders, and then they're gonna think I'm really cool, and we're gonna solve the problem.
Okay, maybe that was Hagrid's plan.
You
Actually,
know-
why is Hagrid not? So
I feel like Dumbledore should get a little peeved at Hagrid for certain things he does, where it's like, well, especially the fifth book when he brings in a whole giant into the forest, like, Dumbledore, I know that you trust Hagrid with your life because, he has a good heart and stuff, but having a giant infestation of spiders, like, at least the half-giant, there's only one of them, and you can control them and communicate with them.
Well, did Dumbledore know about the spiders?
I do.
I don't
I
think so.
struggle to see how he wouldn't eventually.
He doesn't
figure
know
out.
every
Wouldn't
aspect
the centaurs
of everything.
complain about it? Because if the spiders were they're an invasive species. So
The centaurs are an invasive species. They're from Greece.
it seems like the centaurs have been there a lot longer, and also again, since the centaurs you can communicate with them, they're not they won't just eat you.
yeah,
if
they
you
came
stumble
with
across
the
their
Roman
path.
conquest
No, they'll
of
just
Britain.
like stump you down and
Well,
kick you to death.
it's just if I had to deal with if we're gonna call them an invasive species, which I don't think
You
we
brought
should.
it up. No,
I'm
the
just
thing
saying
goes
that
is
it's
that
crazy how Hagrid has.
I
I
think
love
okay.
Hagrid, but at the same time, he infuriates me with
The-
how like borderline stupid.
so that's why Harry didn't name his son after Hagrid. I think this all just goes to show that
Rubius Potter,
they've got
you
the-
are the stupidest of my.
No. Hagrid is not stupid.
He's
naive.
immature.
No, just I would
Bearded.
say he is bearded.
Well, that
No,
is true.
I would say he is more naive. He is highly intelligent. He does not always understand that certain things do not work the same way for other people as they do for him.
Well, I guess our
seems.
main problem is that we're discussing things that are actually kind of addressed in later books. So
Yeah, so let's
I think
get back
the main
with
thing
the...
is that the casting for Dumbledore was perfect because some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Oh no.
I suppose that is, yeah, Dumbledore does let some stuff happen. Anyway, so chapter, 15? We,
Yes.
enter the Forbidden Forest, correct?
We have the Forbidden Forest, and we have them go into it. They find the Unicorn Killer. Well, Harry and Malfoy and Fang find this random guy at the moment. We find out later who it is.
Too bad it wasn't Neville who found him, because Neville would have pounded him into a pulp. And
obviously.
Ripped him in half with his bare, manly hands.
And no, he would have drew the sword of Gryffindor out of the ground.
Yep.
He just would have summoned it and just stabbed Voldemort in the chest and be like, ah!
Well, it was Quirrell at the moment.
Well, Voldemort was on the back of his head, though, so...
Yeah.
Still would have worked.
Yeah, but so they...
I guess... I guess the Forbidden Forest, is, again, as crazy as it is to send children into a terrible, dark forest at night, it is necessary for some of the plot points, so I suppose they could have been implemented in different ways. But it's just, we do have, well, I guess that we do get an introduction to the Centaurs and how they act and think. So, and they do appear in later books.
Mars is bright tonight.
Yeah, and we do have, and then we do have the discussion between Harry and Firenze, that basically informs the reader on it basically this is where Harry figures out that Voldemort is the one who's trying to get the stone, but at this time he believes Snape is the one helping him, and I guess he supposes that he saw Voldemort. He didn't see Quirrell, there with Voldemort on the back of his head. He just thought it was Voldemort in the cloak, and it's funny to think that Harry thinks Voldemort is just hanging around in the Forbidden Forest, and
with the creepy werewolves.
And I guess it is interesting to be like, can you bring up the page where doesn't Hermione say go to Dumbledore, and Harry says something about not going to him? Do you know the specific line? Because it does seem like a thing you'd want to tell Dumbledore. Like, I believe Voldemort may be in the Forbidden Forest.
Well, wasn't it because he didn't want Dumbledore to know that he had broken all the other rules and was, looking at, trying to figure out the Nicholas Flamel stuff?
I feel like thinking it's Voldemort because your scar was hurting and stuff like that.
Or no, maybe it was Hermione was saying that, you're safe here because Dumbledore's here, so you wouldn't need to tell him because Dumbledore is inherently safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Which is true. So what is the line specifically? Do you know?
Well, we're looking for that line. Do you ever imagine the Centaur Bane going like,
I guess.
He's got the mask and he's a big old buff,
okay, just because something's named Bane doesn't mean it's automatically Bane from DC Comics.
That's so right, because he's definitely Darth Bane, who created the rule of two. That's why there's only two centaurs.
But
I know.
So how long are you going to take this joke?
What else is a Bane reference?
Bane of my existence.
Oh.
That should be the spin-off of just Bane's perspective of the Harry Potter world.
Okay, I did find the line, by the way.
Yeah, so what is the...
Yeah, so Hermione says, hey, you're fine because Dumbledore's here. Yeah, and then the next day they're having all of their end-of-year exams, and after the last one, Harry and company, they're talking about how, everything's going to be fine. Voldemort can't get the stone because Hagrid would never let down Dumbledore. He's the best. And yes, Hagrid would never let Dumbledore down. And that's when Harry realizes...
Unless you offered him something to
How did he get a dragon egg? Just happened to get it.
So do the exams happen the next day? Or?
Pretty much, in that week it does. And then so Harry and company ask Hagrid, did you tell anyone anything about Fluffy? And Hagrid accidentally lets them know that yes, he actually did. So then Harry says, we've got to go to Dumbledore, and we just hope Dumbledore believes us. And that's when they realize, that's when they find Professor McGonagall, and she tells them, Dumbledore's gone, he's at the Ministry of Magic. Stop messing around. Go out, enjoy the sun.
Yeah, and then they're talking some more, and then Snape shows up, and he's suspicious.
Yep.
And then we get a classic line of,
People may think you're up to something.
Well, I guess that, but you also have where they're asking where Hermione asks why she's the one that is gonna
follow Snape
to the teacher's room. And it's like, oh, well, you can just be asking, Professor Flitwick about, oh, I think I got question 14B wrong. Oh. It's like, wait, is that a thing you do? Like, after you take a test, you go to your teacher?
Yeah.
And like,
yes.
Oh, by the way, I got this wrong, but I actually think it's this. Can you change that?
I have gone to a teacher to ask about test things, and if they said, you got this one wrong, and I thought, why? Sometimes I have asked for more clarification.
I've never been the academic type, so I was I've never. Basically, I hate tests so much that I'm just like, I don't care anymore. Like I brain dump tests so fast.
Well, I worked hard on the tests. So.
Well, this is the water treatment test where I got 100% on that.
Good job.
Super proud.
Okay, but then
that has nothing to do with this.
So now they decide that since Dumbledore's gone and none of the teachers, mainly Professor McGonagall, doesn't really seem to understand.
Yeah, I guess since Professor McGonagall is shooting them down, they're like, oh, we can't trust anyone because none of them will believe us.
Now see, they just go straight to Quirrell, and he's just like, oh.
Professor Quirrell Snape is going to steal the stone tonight.
Abracadabra, alakazam.
Oh no. So yes. Yeah,
Oblivion.
So now we go down the. Well, I guess we have to. Neville stands in their way.
Oh yes, we get this great little character moment that shows up later.
Yeah, because Neville's the uber chat of the Harry Potter universe, and there needs to be a Ender's Shadow style Neville version of Harry Potter.
That this whole during the entire year, everyone is at least Harry and friends who are nice to Neville and stuff. They tell him to stand up for yourself and don't let yourself be pushed around. But the moment he stands up to someone, they're just like, oh, you're getting in our way.
That's what
you're
supposed
to stand up to everyone but us.
Yep, then they get past him, and then
they assault the child, and then they go do dangerous activities, doing curfew, the thing that they just got in trouble for doing last week.
I guess we also get what the Bloody Baron sounds like. Because
The
Harry doesn't
Bloody
impersonation.
Baron does not need to. Or wait, oh shoot.
The Bloody Baron has his own reasons for being invisible. Oh.
What if that's not what he sounded like, and Peeves is just like, do you have a cold or something?
I don't think ghosts are always cold.
Did you fly through a mouldy salmon that was just a little bit too mouldy?
You what, mate?
Anyways, but then yes, that's Harry has a flute that Hagrid gave him, and so he plays the flute for a little bit, and that puts
that's
Fluffy
a non-movie thing. They just have the magic harp just going on.
Yeah, I like that more than the magic harp. I think it's more intentional, and I like especially how Harry's
it's a nice little setup.
Well, Harry's like he's the one who's playing, and they're like, oh, which one of us should jump through? And he's like, oh, I want to do it while he's still playing, so he's super talented. But I like how it's Harry's the one who's like, yep, I'm gonna jump down this hole first because I like my friends.
Do you think his flute sounded kind of like those little cheap recorders you got in school?
Oh, you that do 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 do.
Or is it like the really crummy recorder version of Star Wars and stuff? Whenever
Well, I have it on the thing right there.
Oh, you have a recorder?
Yeah. Let me grab it real quick.
Okay, this is gonna be some interpretive music.
Yeah, it's probably way better than mine.
You have to play this for the rest of the scene.
It's just the little cheap school recorders.
You have did you borrow it extendedly?
Well, it was someone else's, but then it became mine.
He stole it from somebody who stole it from the school.
No, it was someone in the family. It was a siblings. Maybe even yours. I don't know, but it's just I held on to it and I've never gotten rid of it. I'm thinking of selling my guitars, but I'll hold on to this.
I'll never let go of the banjo.
Let's see. So your thumb has to hold over the B, right? And then you
play like a giant dog's about to eat you.
Do you have all your fingers? Hey Rachel, do you remember how to play these things? Do you have
hot cross
buns? On, and then you have to.
Yeah, then you lift them up.
Does that sound like an owl?
Not really. Okay.
So what we need to do is we need to clip that and make that our intro.
Just
I should learn.
Can you at least play hot cross buns?
Okay, one second. Let me clean it up for you. Wait, do you remember how to play hot cross?
I think I do. Hold on.
Oh, should I try to learn? Come on, you can do it.
That was really bad. My apologies to the recorder community. Never mind, I can't remember it. I thought it was, dun dun dun, but it's clearly...
It's clearly not what you thought.
I figured it out! I am the recorder queen!
Maybe Orpheus wasn't that great of a musician. It was just Cerberus was really easily satisfied.
Can I have the case back?
Oh, yeah.
Recorder is an underrated instrument. It's actually pretty good, and I can
if you can actually play it.
Well, it's a nice sounding instrument if you play it correctly and not like me.
But, it's like a baby oboe.
So,
okay,
for
anyway.
future reference, I'll just look up online
how to play
like the Harry Potter theme. Even though I think that wait, isn't there just a bad recorder version of the Harry Potter theme?
Yeah, there's a bad recorder version of everything.
Okay,
yeah.
But I should make it my own so that it can be our version.
Our bad recorder version.
I still think we should stick with chickens.
Chickens.
Okay, so
the chickens are revolting.
Here are the trials of the Sorcerer's Stone. So they get past Fluffy.
I guess it's it is. I like how they do think it through. We can't see the bottom. We're gonna have to drop, but instead of all doing it at once because that would be stupid. Let's do it. Let Harry take the risk.
Yeah, and I like that. It shows that Harry is brave and he deserves to be in Gryffindor.
I'm guessing there's some magic in it that stops you from going max velocity because even though there's plants, I feel like you just smash into them.
Or maybe it's not that far.
They are really soft plants.
No. The way they describe it is don't they describe the thing as looking super small, the opening looking really small and tiny?
Yeah, so super soft plants. It's like 20 feet of fluff, and then it contracts and sucks you in.
I don't think that's how Devil's Snare is because they're a vine-like kind of thing. They're very closely
Yeah. Well, essentially they say it's a soft landing. Let's move on. Let's trust Ron and Harry.
I'm just guessing that it would make sense that there would be some sort of magic in the stop you from going because again, unless we're talking about an insane amount of.
Actually, that would be the perfect defense. All right, you got past.
No, Professor Sprout's
you survived gravity. Now survive the plant.
No, Professor Sprout's just oh, it would be such a terrible thing if they died before they got strangled by the plants. They do love strangling the life out of things. I will put a cushioning spell, just so that my plants can enjoy their strangling.
Well, again, it's just an interesting design of, so we're going to put the entrance in a quarter, right? And then we're going to put a hole in that quarter that goes under the castle.
Yes.
Because they almost, don't they?
Maybe this is all in the chamber of Hufflepuff.
Oh, gosh. So the children, Harry and Ron, they say we must be miles under the school. However, they are 11 years old. This could just be hyperbole. They could just be 20 feet under the school. Which, I mean, that's still a long way to drop, and I guess I would agree that landing on plants would not necessarily save you from breaking any limbs, but...
It was a really small hole, too, so, it would look like a postage stamp from 20 feet away.
So I think I'm going to give it to them. They're fine. So they survived the plants, though, because Hermione... remembers
when he's calling up to them, he calls up to the light the size of a postage stamp.
Yeah,
which was the open trap door. It's
it was small.
Again, for I'm going off of movie, visuals of how big the trap door was. It's to have that be a postage stamp. That's pretty darn far. But I guess I'm stuck on I shouldn't be stuck on this.
Move on.
This is not necessary. So basically, we have a nice little team scene where you have Hermione trying to figure things out, but then and it shows Harry being able to think even under stressful situations where Hermione, who is safe, is trying to think of how to defeat them, right? And she can't figure it out, but Harry's able to guess it out. Yeah,
light a fire.
Witch, did you not just burn a teacher or not?
Yeah, but she does that, and so then they're able to.
But yeah, this is a great.
Get on to the next one.
There's no wood.
Honestly.
But that doesn't happen in the movie. I'm disappointed.
Well, no, because Hermione is perfect, can like understand everything and like steals everybody's best lines.
Well, they also changed it to where you have to just
you
not
just hold
struggle,
still,
and
then
the
they
plants
let
will
go.
get
That was
bored and just let
dumb.
go.
That was
like,
really
it just
dumb.
doesn't make sense.
Doesn't
like,
make any sense at all.
Like, why not just have you use again, just have you use the magic that will allow you to get past the plant.
I do.
It's such an unnecessary change. I guess they wanted the.
Well, they wanted. I think they did it because the scene where like Ron's freaking out and like gets gagged is really funny.
I didn't think it was funny.
It's funny, but I'm still mad that they
as a kid, I was
up
terrified of
yeah.
that. So I guess they wanted to be more terrifying, but at the same time, they had to just make up a rule that just never applies to anything ever.
Well, they probably never mind. Yeah, so
it's just
they made it so Hermione knew how to do everything right and was.
Yeah, I'm as good as the first movie is. That's one of its big weak points.
Well, they did cut out the whole potion thing, which is where Hermione's like moment to shine and stuff, and so I guess they had to replace it with her shining there a bit more.
Yeah, with
the light. What spell does she use again?
Lumisoren. Solen.
She just says Avada Kedavra, and Avada Kedavra's those plants up real good.
Wait, does Avada Kedavra work on plants?
I think so.
You have to mean it, so.
Yeah.
I just wonder if like there's just an interesting question because it's the killing curse, but it leaves things undamaged, right? So it basically rips the soul out of the body, basically, right?
I don't think people are gonna use that for their weeds. Just saying.
That would be the best pesticide ever, though.
I know, just viciously scream it at.
I feel like it's probably easier to do it to plants because you don't have to like worry too much about like.
Also, weeds are so annoying that I mean it when I want them dead.
Like I don't think you could use weeds to make a Horcrux, but I'm pretty sure you could use the killing curse on them.
Anyways, so then they get the wings on the keys. So Harry they all get to fly around on brooms, and Harry gets to catch the key, and that's cool. He's a seeker and all.
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward. Where again, I like how a lot of these rooms do require again these challenges are just great character moments for everyone because basically it's the culmination of them working together.
Yeah, it is really nice.
Because you have Ron figuring out the doorknob and stuff, and and Harry using his skills as a seeker. It's funny how not important Quidditch is to the stories, because that's what everyone tells me when I say Quidditch is one of my favorite things. But then I'm like, yeah, but J.K. Rowling actually does do some clever things where she'll bring his Quidditch skill into things. Like, again, he's able to spot it because he's a really good seeker. He catches the wand at the very end of the series after blasting it out with the skill of a seeker, and he's able to redirect the stuff and things. Anyway, Quidditch is cool. Bite me.
No. Okay, so then we get to the giant chess. We get to the giant chess game, and that's neat.
This was actually done really well in the movie.
Oh, it was freaking great
for the most part.
No, like to H3.
No, I think.
Well, it's the only time Ron gets to actually be like Ron from the books in like the entire movie series. He's like clever and good at the things he does, and then he like turns back into a moron for the rest of it.
I think the actor did for a kid actor, he was really pulling. He was doing the part really well,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish it could have been a bit longer,
Well,
because the set was also that was a practical set, wasn't it?
Yeah, for the most part, until the Queen turns into CGI and stabs the child. It looks good, but it's still
I mean, I guess it's better than her clubbing him on the head in the book.
Is that what happened?
Isn't it? Yeah, he stepped forward, the White Queen, she struck Ron hard across the head with her stone arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's a stone arm to the face.
Actually, I almost kind of prefer that because she does just stab the horse and he goes, ah! It's like, what happened to him?
I guess which one's more believable of being survived? I feel
like a statue could softly tap you on the head.
This is supposed to stop Voldemort from eating the Philosopher's Stone.
The Stone Queen just taps Voldemort. It's like, you're out. Go sit down.
This is supposed to stop the Elric brothers.
I'm sure both of you have smacked your head into something and it almost knocks you out because again it's your head meeting a very solid object.
Only when I'm fighting giant stone women.
Okay.
So,
but
what's your point?
Well, it's just a stone arm, right? So these things probably weigh up to potentially multiple tons. So the statue being soft, like not bashing his skull in, but just giving a good pop,
I guess
that would definitely knock
I
you out.
feel like
but
that would be more likely to
your
kill
skull
him
in.
than falling off of a horse that exploded.
I just I think it's just interesting,
Book-wise, though, no. Ron is.
Actually, it's the fall that could have taken him out.
I like how
that horse was very tall, so he could have so I could see since the statue does explode, which that was all practical, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I like in the book how Ron's like running around the chess set, like figuring it out.
Well, also it's another setup that where he's good at chess, and so it's like sure it's convenient that it's a
giant chessboard.
Just is like I could just have a bunch of
I could just turn them into exploding barrels.
Well, wouldn't it be funny if it is just a room full of exploding barrels, and if you get too close to one, they just explode?
Desks.
Oh, the desks just attack you.
It's like why are we in a classroom?
No, or you could have just
turn ominously. Charge.
You could have just had Dumbledore's thing at the end, which is basically unbeatable by anybody who wouldn't want to be beaten by it. Be the only thing that's defending it.
I get. Wait, but if we go off the idea that they were protecting the stone before the mirror got there, so was the stone I guess obviously Dumbledore would have had a special box or something that he probably would have been guarding at that point, but it's possible that since he was again we're not quite sure where this mirror comes from, so
what are we, some kind of Sorcerer's Stone protection squad?
Yeah, but I'm guessing that the teachers they set up all these protections. So, because, Dumbledore was trying to find a foolproof way of protecting it, and so either he knew about it and was, ordering it on Amazon and waiting for it to be delivered. I don't know.
Was Amazon a thing?
Again,
besides the Amazon was a thing.
The company started in 98.
Yeah, so anyway. I don't know if he could have
anyway, but it's just, I guess that's just potentially that would be an interesting story to be, where does this mirror come from and what is it?
Yeah.
And also, again, did Dumbledore know about it and was just waiting for it to get to Hogwarts, or was he
need to have Harry look at this first. I need to see whether he's a pig ready for slaughter yet.
It's just really interesting. So, again, I'm guessing that's why there's all the teachers' protections, because since the mirror wasn't there until Christmas, Dumbledore didn't, was protecting it that way until the mirror.
No, it's a great example of how criticisms can be counterbalanced. That was an incorrect criticism on my part. Way to go, fella.
Okay, so,
but a necessary one, I think, because again, it's good to point out these things because with that.
Why don't they just use the eagles? Oh.
Yep, and so they leave the child in a pool of his own blood, and they move on.
Okay.
So Hermione, though, they get to the potions room.
I like this one. I kind of wish they had it in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't, because
probably just for
it's
time.
Too long, and I don't think it would have.
Well,
it reads a lot better than it would have seen visually.
Yeah, because it would just be her looking at them
and being like,
Well, no, she would pick it up. She would read it out loud, and they'd be like, okay, 1 second, and then they could have her thinking out loud, where she's like, okay, so due to this, I can state that these. Basically, you have her just monologue how she's figuring it out. I feel like you could again in the book we're not told, she's just sitting there thinking about it and reading it, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like
got it.
I feel like they could just have her again you take the explanation and just rewrite that into a she's again basically she's
figuring it out.
In order for me to figure that out, let me just say it out loud, and don't basically, how sometimes you talk an idea.
Yeah, they could have done it. All I'm saying is I like it, and
but I also just it's just we could have gotten the super cool black and purple flames, which of course Snape would do that. The edgelord. Yeah. It's like I'm going to set up this dark fire because I'm edgy.
Yep. So then
these dark flames remind me of Lily.
Okay.
Everything reminds me of Lily.
Oh no, a pheasant. It has red.
Wait, is the troll before or after this? I think
the troll's before this. Yeah,
really?
The troll's before.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But the troll's just
fine. I guess it's just interesting how we get a troll that's larger than the troll they faced, and it just has a bloody lump on its head. We're not quite sure how it got that.
Because Quirrell beat the crap out of it.
Well, Quirrell mentions he has a special affinity for trolls.
Yeah.
Like,
so he.
I wasn't sure if he just like knew some magic or like.
Yeah. Well,
he
you see, he
trollish.
did a crescent kick.
He's got troll magic.
Well, it's just interesting because again, like
Man, that level.
It's mentioned that it is that the language of troll does exist. So you wonder if he's just really good at it, or and like maybe he like challenged it like, "Hey, I bet you can't knock yourself out." Oh yeah.
Yeah. That level in the PS1 one though is Sorcerer's Stone. Man, you have to like run like it's one of those levels where the thing is running at you and you have to like dodge the things in front of you as you're running towards yourself in the screen. Because Quirrell didn't kill it or beat it up before you got there in the game.
It was for gameplay reasons.
Okay, but now we actually
then we
meet.
get the potions and they figure it out, and that's where Harry comes up with his plan of, okay, so I'm pretty sure that
I'm going to die.
That
like a pig for
so
slaughter.
he thinks Snape is there, and for some reason he's like, I'm gonna hold him off. How? I will annoy him to the point of distraction.
I'll touch his face and he'll explode.
But again, it just shows that Harry isn't a complete, numbskull. He's able to, since he realizes the severity of the situation, he's like, okay, Hermione, you go get Ron and fly up and just send a letter to Dumbledore. And so it's like, there is that backup plan.
Yeah.
If only they'd sent a letter earlier. Well, no, they did think that it was immediate, so I don't blame them for leaving.
It's interesting to think that it happened before dinner, and then they waited until, like, midnight, basically, and it's like, you couldn't have sent an owl then? And also, this is before Rowling came up with apparition, right? Because of how long it takes Dumbledore to travel?
No, you can't apparate into Hogwarts.
Well, yeah,
so
but it's not that long of a walk to the gate.
I don't know. He arrives as soon as they reach up, so he's already
on his
way.
It just Dumbledore states later that she shows up at the Ministry, so I'm guessing he steps foot inside the Ministry and he's like, I shouldn't be here, and then immediately starts his way back. Which
something like that.
You think would take, like, I don't know, 20 minutes if you're just apparating directly from the edge of Hogwarts to there. Though it is mentioned later that he does use thestrals when he doesn't feel like apparating. Huh. So maybe he just didn't feel like apparating that day, so he did use a thestral both there and back.
I don't know.
Either way, it's just an interesting little thing.
Well, now we
doodad.
get to meet Quirrell and the real Quirrell.
Such a quarrelsome individual.
Would you say this was a good twist or kind of an obvious twist?
It was really good. I liked it a lot.
Because the clues are I don't know. Maybe it's just because I can't really remember the first time reading it. But it's like there are the clever clues. It would be really interesting to to have someone who's never read or seen the movies, which I know is very difficult, but it would be interesting to be like, okay, so the basically ask them halfway through the book, so do you think Snape is the one working for Voldemort? And they'd be like, yeah, why? It's like, okay, no reason. And then at the end, be like, so did you guess it was Quirrell? And I was like, yes or no?
I think it's the perfect kind of twist where it's like you'd be more likely than not expected to see it coming. But when you read it again, you get to see all the things that set it up, and it makes it better.
The clues are there.
Yeah, but they're not obvious.
There's enough nuance that it isn't obvious, and I guess Snape isn't a super obvious red herring.
Yeah, because he is a genuinely horrible person,
and he did appear to try to get past the dog on Halloween, which so Snape headed off Quirrell, so he caught Quirrell at the dogs?
Yes.
Do you think he would have obviously he does report that to Dumbledore, but do you think that would have made Quirrell's life
because Dumbledore tells him to keep an eye on Quirrell in the 7th one. In the past flashback memory.
I guess it's just interesting to be Quirrell was literally messing with the dogs, and I got bit in the result, and you wonder why he doesn't get
Dumbledore
fired.
would be like, it is so hard to get Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers. Just even if he is Voldemort, let him stick around for a little bit longer.
We need the students to get past their exams first, and then we can kill him.
It's like you can't blame me. I mean, I denied you a job 50 years ago, but I gave you a job.
Wait,
sort of.
So Okay, so technically,
Voldemort was the teacher's aide.
Voldemort was in the
very quiet teacher's
Dark Arts
aide.
costume for at least a year.
Yep.
Because
beautiful.
When,
it's like poetry.
Yeah, it was
rhymes.
the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
He was.
He had a turban.
He had the turban because they don't mention. So he's wearing the turban in the movie from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But they don't mention the turban until the feast.
That is right.
So I wonder why the movie didn't do that.
Because they wanted him to have an iconic look, and they probably thought it would be weird for him. He's like, "Why are you wearing a turban now?" It's like, well, I decided to do it.
Well, they did decide not have the scene of him saying, "Oh, he got it from an African prince," and then have someone ask him, "So how did you do it?" And then he just starts talking.
Well, because that wasn't a scene. That was them talking
Quirrell
about a thing that
have a lot in the movie.
No,
really.
or the book, really.
No.
That's how he works so well. Is like a thing where he only pops up occasionally. So he's like the other teachers that are like seldomly mentioned. It's like, oh yeah, this is just a person that sort of pops up. It's like, if you're super observant, you're like, oh, well, why would this person have been mentioned so many times in so many weird ways, and he seems to be a bit more important. So, like, you could almost extrapolate, not because of the evidence, but because of the structure of stories, that he's more important. He's important in some way that might pop up later.
Yeah, I guess there's a good balance. It's just there was a tad bit more Quirrell in the books than
I think it's basically
I think it's a good twist in the singular book because he dies.
I think it's a good twist.
Pretty good twist.
Bite me.
I give it a 9 out of 10 because nothing can be perfect.
I think it could be perfect.
Enough. Okay, well, so
anyway, so now we get the interesting scene of
Come here, Potter.
Talking to him.
Yeah.
Well, so we have Harry being stunned, and he'd be like, "But Snape is so evil," and Quirrell's like, yes, he is evil, but luckily, so that he really will cover my tracks.
Man, that movie part is so good.
And then, but yeah, it's,
I had a little Lego set of this scene in the movie.
When does he reveal Voldemort to him? He reveals it after Harry gets the stone in his pocket, right?
No, I had the Lego set, and it was the thing, and it had the little mirror, and like what I'd do is I'd just go through that scene because I had all the little people, and it was beautiful.
Oh yes, and Quirrell shows Harry Voldemort after Harry gets the stone. Yes.
Yeah, so we get this in. So I guess it's part of Harry's character where he's talking to Quirrell and he's trying to figure out how to get the stone.
I must tell.
I must not tell lies. Oh no. So yes, so he.
Yeah, he's able to figure out what, I guess it's pretty clever how Dumbledore traps it so that only someone who doesn't want to use the stone, they just want to find it, which
it's oddly specific.
So it's like, I guess it's like, so what if you want the stone for like a good reason,
I suppose Harry's reason.
Then you'd be able to get it. The person they're trying to protect it from is somebody who wants it for bad reasons.
Yeah,
I guess.
So they would be incapable of ever getting it because they could never want it
so
for
anyone
something
who
other
wants
than
to use
themselves.
the stone, since Harry didn't want to use the stone for anything, he just wanted to find it. So I guess that's an interesting.
It's a good safeguard.
Yeah, imagine Ron being in this situation. He's like, "Oh, I want it so bad."
Oh, it'd be so cool if I had it. Like, then it wouldn't work because, I guess it's interesting since Harry, he does well. Firstly, he doesn't need gold.
Yeah.
That's gold isn't important to him, and eternal life that really isn't important to him either. So I guess it's just really interesting, and so he's able to figure that out.
Yep. And then when Quirrell tries to kill him, and Voldemort, by extension, Voldemort,
crazy revelation,
find that he literally cannot touch Harry without burning, and
because of the magic.
Yeah, Harry's mother's love burns within him and outside him, apparently.
We are kind of missing the thing where it's like Quirrell says, oh shoot, what was it? It was that Voldemort tried to kill Harry, not his parents. And that's why... Because before this moment, we always thought that it was that Voldemort was trying to kill his parents. It's here that we learn that Voldemort was trying to kill Harry, not his parents.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important little snippet that'll come in handy later.
Yeah, your mother needn't have died. She was trying to protect you.
In the business, this is what we call foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's basically the startup of a very long story.
Although he does say that they put up a courageous fight, but they were courageous, but they didn't have a fight because neither one of them had wands. So Voldemort sort of waltzed in, zapped them.
I would just imagine Voldemort like actually waltzing, like by himself.
Well, he can do the 3 steps. The 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Avada Kedavra, Avada Kedavra.
I mean, what they did was courageous, and it could technically count as a fight, in a sense.
I guess I just.
And besides, this is Quirrell saying it, right?
Had them die.
No, this is Voldemort saying it.
Oh, well, Voldemort's also like weird, and he wants to make himself sound cool.
I wonder why they had James die without like being able to fight. Like it is interesting. He's like run, I'll hold him off. But
because it's more tragic. They put their trust in the wrong person.
I guess. But
in
at the
Rufus
same time, you
3000.
could have just had it to where like sure they were talented, but again, this is Voldemort. Like only Dumbledore was able to challenge him on a magical level, so it would make sense that Voldemort would be able to easily overpower. Because like sure they were like decent wizards, but they probably weren't crazy skilled.
Well, they defied him 3 times, so they're pretty darn skilled.
Well, did they defy him 3 times just by avoiding him?
I don't know. Maybe they slapped him. Said stop being a meanie.
I don't know. I just guess I think
James Potter just picked him up by his ankle with his wand and then was like, "Who wants to see Voldemort?"
No pants. Oh, I'm like, but again, I feel like with how skilled Voldemort is, like he could easily just stop that from happening.
Yeah, so it's fine that he died.
It's fine. I don't think.
It's fine.
I think that Harry's parents are courageous.
Yeah,
I agree with that. But so. Then Harry sort of passes out at this point because...
And then Neville shows up and roundhouse kicks Quirrell off of him, and then Dumbledore says, "Don't tell anybody about this. I'll give you points, and you'll be the one. You'll be the one who saves the day."
I've done the math. I'll give you some points.
I'll give you the winning points.
Winning points. You shall be the hero of Gryffindor. But I guess it is. We get Harry, who is basically so he has the stone, but he's trapped, and he's like, I just have to stop him from killing me, therefore I will just cause him as much pain as possible.
Well, yeah, the guy's trying to kill you.
Yeah, it's just interesting that, he just holds on to him and he's like, there's literally nothing else he can do.
Yep, so good for Harry. Good job, Harry.
And he turns into rocks.
What?
That was,
That was weird.
I think, for artistic license, it was pretty cool.
I think that would be more like Ash, not
the
rocks.
like ghosts go like...
Oh yeah, in the movie. Yes,
he was the book.
I know.
Well,
return your library books.
Well, I guess as a kid, that
it was horrifying.
Quirrell crumbling into ash, the special effects of that was, at least in my opinion, I think was very well done. Like it was straight up scary.
Well, it's a good balance for sure. Yeah.
Like it just at least for me, it looked really good. And it was really good in a creepy way,
Poor Quirrell.
And then then Voldemort is just like, I'm a smoke monster, and that always scared me.
Listen here, Damon.
Yep. Anyway, so now we're towards the end of the book where Dumbledore gives us
he wakes up in the some explanations for the first time of many.
For the first time in forever.
But yes, this is where we get the explanation of everything and a callback to the Hogwarts toilet seat joke.
Yeah.
Oh yes. I knew that would come up someday.
Oh, yeah, the Dumbledore stuff's great, because it's like, he's like, oh, could I ask one question? He's like, oh, just one? It's like, but, so he's asked some questions, and, like, the questions are, pretty pointed, and Dumbledore's like, yes, no, I'm not going to tell you that, because, well, he says, like, I may need to refrain from telling you the answers to things.
Mm-hmm.
I will not, however, lie.
Well, thanks, Dumbledore.
But
that was not the time to lie.
The first question he asks, he's like, sorry, can't tell you.
Okay.
And it kind of makes sense. Like, you don't want, like, this 11-year-old has already been through enough. You don't want it to be like, there's a prophecy about you and you're going to, save the whole world for him because he's going to come back properly.
Or die trying.
No, you mean while the other survives.
You mean you're raising me like a pig for slaughter? I did not say that.
So am I a Horcrux too? And then, why would you think such a preposterous thing? And how do you know that word?
Then Snape
what have
just
you been
floats by the window and is just like, that's my boy. Because he said, like a pig for slaughter.
Yeah.
Snape's like, yeah, that's my line. I was subliminally wanting him to say that. All of the homework was like, describe what would happen if a potion was fed to a pig, or like, how would you make a pig do this if it did that? And
if a Dark Lord wanted to accidentally failed in their attempt to kill a child, and part of the soul was ripped apart, where'd that soul go?
it is a stone taken from the stomach of a pig preparing for slaughter.
But it's just we do get the explanation here, right? Of just like how the mirror works, and
how Nicholas Flamel is gonna be getting everything in order.
A
and
lot
he'll
of
be
little
fine.
bows are tied up, and it's nice.
To the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure.
And how Bertie bots every flavored beans apparently just are never good for Dumbledore. He can never get a good flavor.
He
So
got
alas.
what was it?
Earwax.
Flavored?
Oh, so he got a vomit
bought
flavored
vomit
one
flavored
first.
When he was young, and
Yeah.
so he couldn't touch his sense. But he was like, hopefully I can get something good. He's like, alas, earwax.
It's like,
It's like,
oh,
what's earwax even taste? Like, how
it's
do you
disgusting.
Well, I'm guessing that, but it's just interesting to be like, so if you get something that is so disgusting that obviously you have never tasted before, how do you identify it? Because like obviously for our Muggle versions, they have a little table that just has like they don't go as far.
Bertie
as
bought
earwax.
several flavored beans, many of which are weird and some are okay.
Yeah, anyways.
But yeah, like I don't think they have an actual table of contents. It's like, oh, this bean is earwax.
Well,
I guess I feel like the model of it is so weird. It's like their business model. It's like, why would you have?
Well, I guess it's a
Object,
classic
like-
little. It's a since it's magic. It's like they can enchant them to like be any.
I know, but
flavor.
why wouldn't
It's
they
like,
make them
what
be
if you
good
get-
flavors? Every good flavored bean that would put every.
Well, I guess it's like so since it is every flavor, you get the possibility of getting really good ones
Well, yeah, but
It's
why do
gambling
we always hear about
children.
the worst ones?
because those are the funny ones that people talk about. I was like, oh, remember when I got a bogey flavored one?
Yeah, I guess,
it's
someone
just-
said,
it's
I
worth
had
what this
chocolate. How quaint.
Well, yeah, it's just like, oh, what did you get? Oh, I got coconut. It's like, okay, boring. So the good flavors are. It's exciting.
Coconut jelly beans.
It's
are the
exciting to
best.
see your friends get the bad flavors
Okay.
because it's that classic little, you play a prank on them.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got unicorn blood. Disgusting.
Voldemort's like, give it to me.
How do you know unicorn blood tastes like?
I
Don't
got
ask.
a rock.
Oh god, gravel.
Alright, well, so, are we ready for the end of year
Mm.
feasts?
Yeah.
Where they lose because they were out of bed that one time.
Yeah.
Serves them all right, I
Mhm.
suppose.
Darn
Well,
right.
it's just wait. So I guess Fred and George didn't get up to much this year because apparently they lose loads of points, but never 150 all at once. But it's like, wait, so does it really matter how you lose the points, whether it be immediate all at once or over
It
time?
is-
Like if you lose the same amount of points, like over the course of the year, wouldn't the result be the same?
Well, it's a difference between me coming up and punching you in the face versus me just tapping your cheek. If I just went up and I tapped your cheek several times throughout the day, you'd be like, huh, that's weird. But if I slap you, it's going to be like,
I suppose.
what is wrong with
I'm just
you?
trying to think of it math-wise. It's like, okay, so if you lose 150 points over the
So,
course of the year...
It's not a matter of like what it actually is. It's the perspective of it,
Yeah,
right?
it's
It's like these are
perspective.
fun, friendly people that like people like and enjoy versus these first years that are weird and nobody likes the younger
Well-
children. They're like little ones, right? And so
Well,
it's like
except Harry, obviously,
Yeah, and-
people like him since he's the...
they
somebody,
don't.
yeah,
Well,
somebody.
they do like him at first because
They're
he-
fascinated by him, like a popular celebrity, but like
No, but,
losing
like,
a
when
lot
he
of points
wins
at the
the
same
first Quidditch
time,
match.
even if it's less than what you accumulate over an entire year, it seems like it's less just because it's spread out. And if somebody's like actually keeping track of it, like who's gonna be like, Fred and George lost half a point today. They
You
only
know
lost
there's
a
that,
point
you
tomorrow."
know there's that
No,
one person.
No, there's no way
There's
they could
always
do
that-
that.
there's
How would they
always-
even know?
There is always that little sniveling math tutor.
The little Randall kid from Recess. It's like, yeah, nobody's gonna do that. So I think even though
Like,
Fred
just-
and George lost
Just
250
inhale
points,
through nose while pushing up glasses. You know, I've gotten all my points have gone to nothing because Fred and George have been ruining with their stupid practical jokes. I
Yeah,
don't like
that'd
it.
probably be me. I'm just joking. I wouldn't be keeping track of their points, but I...
Neville just puts his hand on his shoulder and is like,
Change
son, you need to stop being this way. It's like, I'm 5 years older than you. It's like, no, I am Neville. I am
Uber
without
Chad.
beginning of days.
Anyway,
I am the one who
but
knocks.
so... Wait, so was Dumbledore with them at the... with the first troll? Was he there in that scene?
No, he's not around a
Because
lot.
maybe Professor McGonagall told him about it. It was like, yes, Harry and Ron, they were there saving the Granger girl. Actually, they use last names. They don't call them by their first name. Anyway, so Potter and Weasley saved Granger from her folly. And so I decided to give them 5 points each. And he's like, for defeating a mountain troll.
Points.
Like,
Are you
only
kidding
5
me?
points. And then I took 5 from her, so she'd learn a lesson.
So they only got 5.
For surviving and killing, well, not killing, they just knocked it
Defeating.
Well,
You're
to be
defeating
fair,
mountain troll.
that shows how strict McGonagall is. She's
Yeah,
she's less likely to give rewards and more likely to punish.
So
And
he's
that
like,
is okay.
clearly I need to do something about this later on. So now you've just defeated Voldemort for a second
these
time.
3 did risk death and injury to stop the most evil person from coming back.
True,
So I
if they
think
had never
they've all
gotten...
earned 100 points each.
Well, also they a bunch of 11-year-olds got through like adult wizard puzzles.
Yeah, maybe
so it's like he's
at the
he's,
next staff
it's him.
meeting, it's
Like the
like,
whole point is like he's doing this to make
How
the
many
teachers
first
be
years
like,
does it take to
"You kidding
replace
me?
one wizard? At least 3.
You know, Quirrell is lucky that he died. You should all be jealous of him." I'm going to dock your pay. You're going to be working for free for the next 7. That's why all the teachers are awful in the next few books, except for, like, the new ones, right? Except for
Wait,
Umbridge.
what do you mean?
What do you mean
Well,
awful?
Well, I don't know. It's just, never mind. They're not awful. I am joking.
No,
Yeah.
I guess this is like one of the harshest moments of McGonagall is just this part of the first book.
And then he hires Lockhart to just be like, you see,
You
this
all
guy-
deserve this.
you deserve this
Well,
thing.
he was the only one.
He's the only one
He
who
didn't
wanted
hire
to.
him like on purpose. He was
Because
the only one.
Quirrell got touched by a student and turned into rocks and exploded.
Ash. I'm pretty sure that was
It looked like
Ash.
rocks.
It was crumbly ash.
Oh god, it was horrifying.
Well, it's just when he hits the ground, it's like a big poof, and so he does appear. So it's like well, have you know how wood looks like when it's being
This
being
is
charred
wood.
over time, right?
Yes.
Like it doesn't just turn into dust when it gets burnt. Like it slowly
Yeah.
degrades. So it's
Yeah,
kind of like
but
that.
Two.
So
No, when we watch this, I will observe it. And I'll be the judge of whether it looks like stone or ash.
Okay, fair
Well, it's
enough.
just we'll be able to
Fair
use the actual stone statues of the chessboard to compare to him.
I mean, there's different kinds of stone than like
Yeah,
polished
like
granite.
pumice.
Okay,
Wait, is pumice a stone? Yes,
It
it
is.
is.
Thomas is a stone.
It's volcanic. So, we get all to the points
Yeah.
because
And then we
Mr. Weasley,
we get the meme that Dumbledore was just sick
Yes.
and tired of Slytherin winning. Could you imagine being like, so they've been winning for 6 years in a row. So imagine
Yeah.
being the 7th year. They're like, oh yeah, we've been doing so well. All these years I've been here, we have won. And then he just pulls out this and you're like, what am I?
You
What
are
am I,
chopped
chopped
liver.
pumpkin pasty?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I guess I would just be like,
Well, that's why
I
they
know
all
the-
went
I
and
know the
joined
Slytherins
Voldemort.
are.
Oh, no.
It's like, you wonder why the Slytherins are evil, because they seem to be genuinely, like, at least decent students, since they were always in the running. It's like, they have to be good, like, academic-wise, to earn points.
I don't understand.
They're also really sneaky with their rule breaking and racism.
Okay.
As they sing out loud, Weasley is our king.
That's not
Weasley
racism.
is-
That's
oh,
class. That's a class struggle.
That's just bullying,
Yeah.
pure and simple.
Bullying is okay. Snape's
Unsportsmanlike
like
conduct. You
5 points for well-pointed criticism. You made fun of the poor boy. I approve of this.
Well,
Aren't you
yeah.
a poor boy, Snape? Don't mention that.
Wait a minute, Snape, aren't you not even pure blood? Shut up. I'll poison
I
you.
dropped the half-blood Prince Monica many years ago.
Anyway, but, yeah, so...
So we have 50 points for Ron because he's really good at chess, and 50 points to Hermione because
Oh, yeah, they
she's
don't get 100
smart.
points each.
And then we have 60 points to Harry because he
Needed
loved
some
Pure love and
his
outstanding.
standing
Also,
courage.
he almost died, so
Oh,
I...
yeah.
Yeah, no,
you
he
can
deserves it.
You can
Yeah.
have
He
10
did
points
all
for
this
facing
stuff.
down the Dark Lord.
Well, no, it said he sacrifices himself for his friends and he puts
Yeah.
It's
himself
only
first.
worth an extra 10
and
points.
But then, really, the true hero of this whole story.
Neville just T-poses and, like, shoots through the Great Hall and flies into space.
But
Like Japanese
I
anime
guess
music
this is
playing.
just, it's just a nice little character. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's just a good thing to tell a kid design. Like, don't like just because you're friends with someone doesn't mean you shouldn't tell them when they're.
Yeah.
You know, takes a lot of courage to stand up to your enemies, but even more to stand up to your friends.
It's a good. It's a nice lesson.
It's
quite good. And
good
Neville
for
saves the
Neville.
day.
Yeah, we like Neville.
Apparently, he never earned a single point that year.
For some reason.
He was too preoccupied with holding the fabric of the universe together.
So
then they get to go home, and Harry is really excited to go home actually because the Dursleys don't know they can't use magic outside of school.
Aunt Petunia should totally know this unless it's a more recent rule.
Well,
because she.
I'm putting that in a rolling plot hole.
You know, it might be a recent rule because.
I guess potentially it could be after Lily, because like they mentioned when she at the very beginning of the book she was turning teacups or something. She was turning rats into teacups into rats or something when she returned home. Yeah, so like she was doing magic stuff from home, and her parents loved it, but Aunt Petunia was just furious about it. So like I guess potentially, but the way they talk about it in future books, it seems like it was always a rule. Like, because I feel like it would have been mentioned as because
ever since James Potter turned.
Well, the Weasleys they were there before. Lily and James. Because
the Weasleys though are a all magic family, so the kids doing magic in that household, isn't it a little harder to tell if it's them because they have two magic parents? It's impossible to tell if it's them.
I guess.
Yeah, because they're able to.
It's a difficult part of the story where it's like they're able to tell when they can only detect magic. So that means if a wizard does anything in a Muggle area, they automatically think it must be an underaged person, or do they?
Only if it's not near.
Well, I guess that they know of underage wizards who live in the area.
Yeah, because they assumed Harry does magic when it's actually Dobby, because they know he is the only wizard in this area, and they know he is underage.
Well, it's just like, so how do they detect magic? Is there like a map that's just constantly lit up?
Well, they have the trace on them, which is an unexplained sort of weird magical thing that means the government's watching children.
And that doesn't make sense.
Anyways, but you know what? End of the book, I remembered why I loved this series.
Yeah.
For a few years, I did, for some reason, think that it's overrated and it's not actually that good. Blah humbug, all that jazz. Re-listening to it, it's like, no, actually, this was really fun. I enjoyed it. I liked the characters. I enjoyed the world, and I'm excited to read the next one.
Yep, it's immensely charming. I think the characters are pretty solid. The world with its issues is like, well, the characters are good. And the plot with its issues, well, the characters are good.
Like, it has a solid base, but obviously some of the upper floors are a little rickety.
Yeah, it is quite like the Burrow, which we will read about in the next book.
But I can see why someone wouldn't like this wouldn't be someone's cup of tea, you could say. But at least for me, again, I was a bit on the end. I think I was young enough to enjoy, grow up with the series.
Yep.
So, but obviously I wasn't the same age as the characters really were. I was always 5 years behind them.
You may sit on this council, but you are not granted the rank of master.
But yeah, I just I remember pretty early on, at least from the third movie out, because it's kind of crazy how. Yeah, it's I get it. For me, it was basically I missed Star Wars when the prequels came out, and sadly, anyway, but yeah, it's I grew up reading the books as they came, as the later books. I want to say fourth book is. I wasn't really at that reading level yet, but obviously with an audiobook it's way easier. So I remember listening to them as they came out a whole bunch, and we listened to them pretty much at least once a year.
Yep, during the summer.
The Bane Centaur just walks in and is just like, "You merely adopted the Harry Potter. I was born in it. Raised by it. Molded by it. I said molded twice, probably."
Oh no.
Anyway, but with that, we will probably discuss the movie next.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Except I kind of want to just, I think we'll cover it in a more general manner and not, break it down scene by scene since we've basically just done that.
Yeah.
So we can we'll basically just talk about, like, what we enjoyed, and I think we can discuss, like,
differences and similarities.
The differences, and we can appreciate, like, the filmmaking and the score. Oh, I love the score.
The music's really good.
But, so what do you have to close us off with?
Well, the whole reason why we're actually here is to read from the greatest Harry Potter story, the 8th story, 19 years later. Let's see. Act 1, Scene 6. Oi. Delphi. Of course, Albus Potter. So Harry is your dad? That's a bit wow, isn't it? Albus. Not really. Not really. The end.
Breathes in deeply, pushes nose up.
Yeah, he's the kid who's counting
pushes
the
glasses
points. Fred
up
and
his
George.
nose.
Freaking little twit.
Yeah, Albus sucks.